Hey guys, tonight we're not sailing with pirates. No creaking ships, no suspicious parrots giving you side-eye, no sunburnt deckhands yelling at seagulls because they started it. Instead, we're wandering into a very different kind of chaos. A quieter chaos, an electrified chaos, a chaos full of sparks, whirring machines, glowing bulbs, outrageous mustaches, and the most dramatic rivalry science has ever produced. Tonight, we're drifting into the world of two men who fought not with swords, not with cannons shaped like swords, but with ideas. Ideas big enough to power cities. Ideas powerful enough to change nights into days. Ideas dangerous enough to electrocute. Well, we'll get into that later, because tonight, we're stepping into the war of currents. This strange, sleep-friendly saga of how two geniuses battle to power the modern world. On one side, Thomas Edison, the relentless inventor with the energy of a caffeinated crow, a man who slept approximately never, patented everything he could touch, and genuinely believed he could outwork the universe. On the other side, Nikola Tesla, the brilliant, mysterious, pigeon-befriending wizard of electricity, who treated math like a love language, and occasionally forgot to eat because he was too busy discovering the future. Their rivalry? Oh, it had everything. Petty insults, dangerous demonstrations, electrocuted animals, publicity stunts so dramatic they make modern tech CEOs look subtle. But before we wander into their laboratories full of buzzing coils, crackling wires, and questionable health and safety practices, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. But only if this kind of calm, cozy, mildly nerdy bedtime storytelling actually helps you relax. If not, that's completely fine. Even Edison and Tesla didn't agree on anything, including, famously, the correct amount of voltage necessary to kill an elephant. We will gently skip that part tonight. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always 2 a.m. somewhere, and if you're here, you're probably trying to fall asleep to the comforting thought that at least you don't have to duel a rival genius while arguing about alternating current versus direct current in front of a horrified public. Now dim those lights, switch on a fan for that soft white noise hum, sink into your pillow, and maybe tuck your feet under a blanket. Not because of rats this time, but because an imaginary inventor might quietly wander in to borrow your socks for an experiment you absolutely don't want to be part of. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what it actually felt like to live in a world right on the edge of electricity? A world where nights were truly dark, where light came from flame, and sound traveled only as fast as a horse could run? What did it feel like to watch the first bulbs flicker to life? To see a glass globe glow brighter than the sunlit future itself? What did it feel like to invent, compete, fail, succeed, and chase ideas so powerful they reshaped every home, every street, every life? What did it feel like to live in a moment when the world was about to change forever, and two men were racing to decide how? Tonight, we're going to drift through that world, not to pick sides, not to crown a winner, but to feel it softly, like the quiet hum of a generator warming up, like the gentle pulse of a filament glowing in the dark, like the spark of an idea that refuses to fade. So take a slow breath in, let your day dissolve into the background, and imagine a world suspended between darkness and dawn, waiting for someone, or two someones, to flip the switch. Settle in, close your eyes if you haven't already, and let the story begin. Chapter 1, The Boy Who Lit the First Spark. And now, as your breath slows, the present softens, and the world settles into a quiet stillness. Let's drift back to a small town in 1847, to a moment so ordinary it almost hides how extraordinary it will become. Picture this, a small, red-bricked house in Milan, Ohio. Its walls are weather-worn, its chimney leans just slightly, and its windows glow with the soft amber of a single oil lamp, the kind of light that flickers as if it, too, is trying to stay awake. Inside, the air smells faintly of dust, ink, and old paper. Not much happens in this house. Not much at all. But in one corner, tucked between a narrow window and a wooden cabinet filled with mismatched mugs and keepsakes, sits a boy, a very curious boy. His name is Alva, though the world will someday know him by another, more commanding name. But right now, he is simply a child with big eyes, untidy hair, and a mind that refuses to sit still. Stacks of books tower around him. Geography, chemistry, novels, histories, mechanical manuals, some borrowed, some bought, some rescued from places books were not meant to survive. They surround him like a fortress, or perhaps like a laboratory waiting to be built. His brow is furrowed in fierce concentration. His lips twitch as he silently sounds out words or solves ideas that have no right to be understood by someone so young. Each page he turns makes a soft whisper, the whisper of a spark, forming, outside. The wind brushes lightly against the brick walls, carrying with it the quiet of a winter night in a town where nothing much ever changes. Horses clop down a distant road. A dog barks once, maybe twice. A lantern flickers on a neighbor's porch. But inside this room, something is shifting. You can almost feel it. A small tremor in the air, like history leaning forward, curious about what this boy might figure out next. Alva finishes a paragraph. He pauses. His eyes drift upward as if he's watching an invisible mechanism turn inside his own mind. Then, as though struck by lightning, he grabs a scrap of paper and begins scribbling on it with furious intensity, as if the idea might escape if he doesn't tackle it right now. He is not learning for school, not preparing for exams, not doing anything anyone told him to do. He is teaching himself because his curiosity is hungrier than his stomach and his imagination brighter than the lamp at his elbow. His mother passes by the doorway, a soft smile tracing her lips. She doesn't interrupt. She never does. She understands that whatever her son is building in his mind is delicate, important, alive. In the corner, an old clock ticks, each second tapping the silence like a gentle reminder that time is moving, and Alva is moving faster. He reads until the lamp gutter flames. He reads until his eyes grow hot and tired. He reads until every word is a star, every sentence a constellation, every idea a universe waiting to be explored. And all the while, the world outside remains blissfully unaware that this small house, this small lamp, this small boy will someday reshape everything. Electricity, light, sound, motion, communication, possibility. But for now, he is just Alva, a child in pajamas, legs tucked beneath him, ink smudged on his wrist, breathing softly in the warmth of an oil-lit night. A boy at the beginning of a journey that will ignite the modern world, one curious spark at a time. So as you drift deeper into this quiet moment, feel the gentle glow of that oil lamp, the stillness of the house, and the quiet certainty that even the greatest revolutions often begin with a child, and a book and a spark. Chapter 2. A Bookish Boy in Bricky Milan. Hey guys. Tonight we embark on a journey stranger than a cat trying to swim and mildly more chaotic than your last family reunion. Welcome to the world of 1847, where our story unfolds in a little red-bricked house in Milan, Ohio. Imagine being transported back to a time when the only apps available were for growing potatoes and possibly a type of influenza. You know, back when your biggest hassle was not whether to swipe right or left, but deciding whether the pig you were about to eat should come from the back barn or the front barn, and truth be told, they both smelled suspiciously similar. Now, before we proceed, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, but only if you actually enjoy this auditory trip down history's memory lane. Otherwise, just save your keystrokes for a how to cook instant oatmeal tutorial. So go ahead, dim the lights, put on a fan or a medieval fan, which is essentially just a slow swoosh of your hand because, well, technology, and settle in. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to teach yourself about the world without Google? Or how on earth did these folks manage to find their socks when the sock drawer was yet to be invented? Or why riding a horse barefoot seemed like a good idea? Gosh, I don't know. And that's just skimming the surface of what our young friend Alva is about to tackle. Congratulations. You've just woken up in 1847. And before you panic about the lack of Wi-Fi, let's take a peek inside Alva's world. Picture this: a curious young lad named Alva, staring intensely at the pages of a book as if they might sprout legs and run away. His small room is cluttered with stacks of books, each one a different shade of brown, possibly varying shades of dust too. It's like a mini library with ambitions of becoming a full-blown university, but mostly failing on the steep tuition fees. The sunlight creeps in through a window so small it might qualify for a hole-in-the-wall contest, illuminating slightly the chaotic wonderland of his mind. His brow is furrowed in concentration. Think of a puppy trying to figure out why the reflection of its tail keeps escaping. In this moment, Alva was a scholar, a philosopher, and arguably a heavyweight champion in the realm of desk clutter. The smell? Perhaps a delightful mix of aged paper and sad lunch leftovers from 3 days ago, because even geniuses have to make do with semi-fresh sandwiches. Alva is on a mission, bouncing back and forth between science and history like a toddler at a candy store. His mind races with visions of inventing something groundbreaking, like the modern toilet or that epic hot dog toaster that nobody asked for but everyone secretly wants. But alas, the only technology at his disposal is the time-honored technique of sticking a spoon in a cup of water and hoping for it to boil, literally watching water boil, which ironically translates to the same excitement level of watching paint dry. And while he struggles to reconcile the mysteries of human flight with the fact that he's just learned how to keep a bird in a cage without it committing an avian escape, a thought flickers into his mind. Is that a book on equine hygiene? That's right, you heard it. He stumbles upon a tome discussing how often horses should get baths. Spoiler alert, it's more than twice a year. So if you were planning on using the "they'll just roll in the dirt anyway" excuse, you'll need to rethink your excuses around the barn. Let's take a moment to delve into Alva's mind more thoroughly as he reads on. Is he forever destined to a life of solitude because he's ridiculously engrossed in the ins and outs of finding the balance between a horse's grooming regimen and arguably more pressing matters, like why the neighbor always seems to have the best cookies at the bake sale? The life-altering dilemmas that haunt a young boy in 1847. The sound of a chicken clucking outside breaks his train of thought, momentarily transporting him from his lofty inventions back to reality after all. Even aspiring inventors need to acknowledge the battle to fight off the breakfast chaos that's unfurling outside. You hear that? It's the unmistakable soundtrack of the most rural of symphonies. Chickens squawking their morning demands, a distant cow mooing like it's auditioning for a role in a farm opera, and the ever-present soundtrack of the neighbor's dog barking like it's part of an all-night DJ session, only without the actual music. Amidst this chaos, Alva contemplates the wonder of a contraption that could transcribe thoughts. What if it could print them straight to my mother's ear? He muses. Because surely, if there's a universal solution to solving familial distress, it's to yell into a device until it magically turns grievances into gold. But alas, any notion of social media or instant communication hasn't quite made it over the weekly supply cart, and as a result, the only feeds he gets are occasionally getting pecked by the chickens when he ventures too close, causing him to leap back in surprise, flailing like a cartoon character with too much caffeine. So here you have it, Alva, the would-be inventor, buried in historical texts and philosophical notions, trying to balance goat milk with great ideas and just a hint of chicken feathers. One can only wonder how this young boy's quest for knowledge and exploration will shape the story of modern civilization. You might think his journey of self-discovery is taking place at a leisurely pace, but in fact, it's more like a snail ascending a mountain of laundry. Don't fret, the adventure is just beginning, and with each turn of the page, you can sense the waves of history starting to crash, and you can bet it's going to be mildly interesting. Stay tuned, my sleep-seeking companions. Chapter 3, The Young Alchemist's Laboratory on Wheels. Hey guys, tonight we dive into a world more chaotic than a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, and about as mysterious as your uncle's tax returns. Welcome to 1870, where our story unfolds on the colorful yet oddly aromatic baggage car of the vintage Grand Trunk Railroad. Imagine yourself surrounded by all sorts of luggage, packed tighter than a can of sardines, while a young lad is battling the world's most ambitious science fair project. You know, the kind where a kid decides that mixing chemicals is a great idea on a moving train. What could go wrong? Now, before we roll on, feel free to give that thumbs up button a gentle poke, subscribe for more laughter interspersed with historical nonsense, and drop a comment about the weirdest thing you ever tried to invent. Seriously, only if you actually enjoy this. Otherwise, save your keystrokes for Google, because I can't compete with the vast knowledge of the internet. So dim those lights, put on your cozy slippers, or if you're fancy, your medieval hand-knit socks, and settle in. Ever wondered what it feels like to carry the weight of your dreams, while balancing the chaos of a train that's probably not covered by insurance? Or how about imagining your parents discovering your questionable concoctions during a dinner party? Ever thought about how you might explain that stinky cloud of smoke wafting through the kitchen that suspiciously resembles last week's mystery casserole? Congratulations. You've just woken up on a vintage baggage car in 1870, where our protagonist, a 12-year-old Thomas Edison, who we shall fondly nickname Tommy because it's cuter, finds himself knee-deep in a makeshift chemical lab. It's like breaking into a fridge filled with leftover casserole. This is a whole new level of potential disaster. Picture this. You're surrounded by cardboard boxes that smell like they were packed with cheese-flavored snacks a century too early, and let's not forget the half-dozen other scents, doing their best to compete. Unwashed clothes, splintery wood, and perhaps a dash of despair. The whir of the train's wheels creates a rhythm equally as chaotic as a toddler on sugar while you peer over at Tommy, who seems unfazed by the stares of a weary railway worker. Masterfully perched upon an old wooden crate, Tommy resembles a pint-sized scientist in progress. His wild, unkempt hair framing an expression of sheer concentration as he tries to reverse engineer the universe with whatever questionable chemicals he managed to scavenge. The young inventor is mixing, bubbling, and, if you listen closely, possibly cursing under his breath when the result of his last experiment resembles a diabolical potion rather than anything remotely drinkable. His hands are stained with various concoctions, the colors of which could only be described as what happens when you forget to label your jars. You can only imagine what his mother would say if she could see him now, probably invoking some sort of worried moan of a mother whose child has taken to creating rebellion in the form of fizzing, bubbling chaos. Come back when the world is on fire, she might say, tossing more, then a pinch of salt over her shoulder for luck. As you watch Tommy thump around his little mobile lab, it's impossible to ignore the disapproving glances of the railway worker loitering nearby, arms crossed, brow furrowed, as if daring Tommy to blow something up on his shift. This fellow is likely imagining his own questionable youth when he probably swiped a cousin's firecracker and promptly brought the house down right after his mother called him for dinner, no doubt. His hold on disapproval is tighter than a corset 2 sizes too small. But for Tommy, the world is a canvas, ripe for the painting and exploding canvas, perhaps. His wide eyes twinkle with the hope of discovery and the kind of recklessness that only the young and nocturnally caffeinated think 5 cups of coffee mixed with unfiltered curiosity could conjure. You might even squeeze a chuckle out of the realization that if he had Wi-Fi, he'd probably livestream his experiments while laughing maniacally, promising everyone a tour through the whole fascinating world of chemistry gone wrong. The stench of sulfur and something akin to burnt rubber fills the air as he leans closer, the trepidation only emphasized by the train rocking back and forth like a sleepy beast over bumpy tracks. Will it be fireworks? Will it be a marvelous invention that changes the course of history? Personally, you brace yourself for the second option, an unexpected creation involving sparkles and a cloud of smoke that would make any friendly neighborhood magician proud. And suddenly, it erupts. A small plume of colorful gas leaps from the easel he's commandeered as a workbench, which sends the nearest luggage falling forward like a bad domino effect. Clattering bags pop open to reveal old clothes and an assortment of knickknacks that haven't seen daylight for ages, bringing more than a hint of unintentional comedy to this already outrageous moment. It's like some bizarre traveling circus, right in the heart of Industrial Revolution madness, where all of life's inconsistent experiences converge. As you chuckle at the scene tumbling before you, like a charmingly awkward play meant for a bemused audience, you can't help but wonder what on earth became of poor Tommy. In a world rife with competition, He's now set against all sorts of innovative foes, wondering if they'll ever bring their wacky inventions to the same level, or if they're just destined to stay as oddities in someone's attic. But isn't that the charm of history? The little mishaps, the unexpected victories, the strangely shaped clouds of chemist dreamers figuring out how to make life mildly interesting. So let the ride roll on. The story continues, with inventors, explosions, and certain chaos waiting just around the next bend. Feeling cozy yet? The journey is far from over. Chapter 4. A train, a boy, and a very bad idea. Hey guys, tonight we reach a pinnacle of drama thicker than your aunt's gravy on Thanksgiving. And I mean the kind of drama even Shakespeare would raise an eyebrow at. Picture this. A runaway train barreling down the tracks, faster than a cat, escaping a cucumber. And our hero, the teenage dynamo known as Thomas Edison, or as we like to call him, Tommy, has a decision to make. Now, before you ponder your own life choices while trying to balance a slice of leftover pizza, let's take a moment to appreciate the absurdity of life in 1870. So do me a favor, hit that like button like you just found a $20 bill in your coat pocket. Subscribe if you're enjoying the wacky historical roller coaster so far, and drop a comment about your most reckless childhood adventure. Bonus points if it involved a firecracker and a very nervous pet. Seriously, only if you actually enjoy this, okay? Now, dim those lights, wrap yourself in your favorite blanket, or, if you're feeling fancy, a sleeping bag that's probably been around longer than your great-great-grandmother. Let's be real, have you ever wondered what it feels like to stand beneath a train bridge, contemplating life choices while trying to avoid getting turned into a pancake? Or how it would feel to save a friend from a runaway train while everyone else just watches, possibly munching popcorn? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1870, where the steam is sizzling, and so are the stakes. Welcome to a railway station that smells like burnt coal, sweat, and a hint of desperation. A place way more chaotic than your neighbor's unkempt yard after a storm. As the station master nervously checks his pocket, watch a mere accessory compared to what we use to keep track of time, his demeanor screams more panic than you'd find in an overcrowded elevator. Suddenly, the shrill whistle of a train pierces the air, echoing like a banshee in the night, and Tommy sees it. A boy, oblivious and innocently daydreaming about whatever boys daydream about. In the late 19th century, perhaps, elaborate schemes to build a sky castle or avoid homework. As if fate has dressed itself up for a grand performance, the boy steps onto the tracks, now frozen in the very moment of oblivion, faster than you can say whoopsie daisy. It's enough to make you wonder if he's got a safety manual that's thicker than a slice of bread. But fear not. Our hero Tommy springs into action with the energy and enthusiasm of a squirrel on espresso. Now, let's not kid ourselves. Coming face to face with a runaway train is like attempting to teach a goat how to waltz. It's bound to end badly. The whistle shrieks like an angry bird that's just spotted a cat. Tommy bounds forward, his heart thundering like a marching band on a caffeine high. He reaches for the boy just as the train rumbles ever closer, each puff of steam morphing into an animated cloud of doom. In a move that would undoubtedly make a sports coach weep with pride, Tommy yanks the kid back just in time, like a superhero who skipped leg day but excels in dramatic flair. The momentum sends them sprawling onto the wooden platform, creating a spectacle that would have easily earned them a spot on the 19th century equivalent of TikTok. As they tumble, the station master, who's been one awkward moment away from cardiac arrest, rushes over, eyes wide as saucers. With a voice that vibrates like a tuning fork, he exclaims, "You saved him. My goodness, you saved him. What are you doing with all that reckless bravery?" Tommy, determined not to appear fazed, because obviously acting cool is crucial when saving lives, grins and shrugs. Just thought it was about time to give someone a lift to the next dimension. You know the usual. The station master, still grasping the gravity of the situation, watches with immense gratitude in his eyes. A pivotal moment occurs as he leans down, offering the reluctant young inventor a mentorship, the kind of bond that could only sprout from shared adrenaline, a sprinkle of anxiety, and a dash of madcap genius. "You've got talent, Tommy," the station master says, looking at him as if he's held a shining piece of electrical potential in his hands. "You could change the world with that energy, but cracking a few eggs on the way might need a bit of finesse." Imagine if Sir Isaac Newton had been an egg enthusiast, completely different Apple-related metaphors, right? In a world where competition loomed like that cloud of steam, Tommy yearned for the chance to innovate in a way that might one day leave his mark. But what happens after saving a life? Do you get a cookie? A medal? Or, as in Tommy's case, a mentor who believes in you and hatches a plan as ambitious as your local bakery's idea of just a sprinkle on a cake? As the gravity of the encounter settles, the train echoes in the distance, almost like the universe itself applauding Tommy's leap into destiny. And you bask in the cozy delight of history's quirks, where the young and audacious are always figuring out how to make the world just a little bit more interesting. See, even in 1870, the moments you take can lead to ripples that power the future, like the runaway train that keeps us all on edge. How exhilarating and exhausting life can be, especially when you're just a kid on the brink of greatness. Can you hear that whistle in the distance? The steam is rolling on, and the next chapter of our quirky tale awaits. Chapter 5, The Humming Heart of Progress. Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves in a scene more electrifying than a cat in a room full of vacuum cleaners. The buzzing telegraph office of the 19th century. Imagine a wall draped with wires, a medley of beeps and boops soaring through the air like an opera sung by a herd of cranky goats. Yes, this is where young Thomas Edison, our protagonist, our light bulb enthusiast, is tapping away at a Morse key, sending messages faster than gossip spreads in an office break room. But before we dive deep into the chaotic charm of 1870, let me ask you, have you ever tried texting your mom only for her to respond 2 days later because she was stuck on the hamster wheel of life? Or perhaps you've left a fruit basket unattended at home, only to return to find it's morphed into a experimental science project, dangerously close to taking over by bacterial uprising? Well, fret not. In this society, they have mastered the art of outdated communication. So, dim those lights. Grab that half-eaten granola bar that's been lurking in your bag for days and make yourself cozy, preferably not too cozy, or you might find yourself waking up, drooling. Welcome to an era where words travel via wires, and that old-fashioned messenger pigeon looks about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Congratulations! You've just woken up in a busy telegraph office where ink-stained hands are as common as a cat basking in a sunbeam, and the atmosphere is charged with anticipation, like the moment before someone finally decides to address the elephant in the room. Or in this case, the elephant is literally a telegram full of urgent news, probably about some poor fellow desperately trying to order a new washing machine that wouldn't exist for another 100 years. Your eyes scan the room, and everything is moving at a pace that would make a caffeinated squirrel proud. The room reverberates with the clattering of keys, the rhythmic tapping that resembles a less rhythmic drum circle gone wrong. You can almost smell the faint waft of burnt coffee mixed with the faint scent of optimism and desperation, just an average Tuesday. Now, picture Edison with his fingers flying over the keys, communicating urgency like a man who just lost the last slice of pizza at a party. The clatter is relentless, as if he's engaged in the most intense game of digital hopscotch known to mankind. Each dot and dash reflects his vocabulary choices. Right now, he's sending important instructions about more telegraph wires, which, let's be honest, are about as exciting as watching paint dry. But never fear. This is the crux of the Second Industrial Revolution, where the hum of machines and the click-clack of keys define modernity. Edison's focus is solid, yet half tempted by daydreams colonizing his thoughts like weeds in a garden. Will he finally invent the perfect light bulb? Will he ever find a pair of socks that actually match? One can only wonder. Oh, to be a fly on the wall in this electric paradise, if only that fly had actual electric wings instead of a penchant for buzzing uncontrollably around your head. As you weave through this lively scene, envision the chaos around Edison. A clerk scribbles furiously, his inkpot skidding dangerously across the desk, while another worker dodges a nearby pile of failed experiments, quite possibly the remains of an early blender or a toaster designed to double as a doorstop. Who knew being a genius involved so much trial, error, and apparently design disasters that could make a modern apartment's open floor plan seem like pure genius? And let's talk about the telegraph itself, the magical machine that could send messages faster than you can launch an online debate about pineapple on pizza. With every tap, it was like squeezing a little lemon of communication into the punch bowl of human connection. Anyone pressing the key could send news across miles faster than anyone could deliver actual lemon slices to a party, leading to more drama than an episode of a reality show about house pets fighting for a treat. But don't let this wondrous contraption fool you. While Edison worked fervently, his colleagues often found themselves stricken with moments of amusement. Picture them reenacting everyday life as an avant-garde play about communication, complete with exaggerated gestures every time a telegram arrived, like some bizarre form of Morse code charades. The excitement over a simple message, "Please send more ink," would unfold like pure Shakespearean tragedy, infused with snorts of laughter and enthusiastic shrieks as if they'd just unearthed a modern-day treasure map. And, amidst the buzzing madness, something profound starts bubbling just beneath the surface. Edison, a mad genius of sorts, realizes that this hum of telegraphs is only the tip of the iceberg. He senses that soon, communication will ebb and flow like ocean waves fusing human interaction with technology in ways that simply boggle the mind. Edison takes a moment, pondering life's grand designs amid the clattering chaos. And you, dear listener, in your cozy retreat, bask in the chaotic brilliance of this bustling office where the modern world is being stitched together, one dot and dash at a time. Because in the end, isn't it a little ironic? Ah, yes, here we are in a world wired together, and yet still utterly baffled about how to connect with the very people who make our lives lively. It's as if society decided to swap secrets faster than a rumor circling a gossip mill, only to find that miscommunication is the real standout hit of the show. So, let the clatter of keys lull you into a meditative state as we glide deeper into this wild tapestry of invention, enlightenment, and yes, even a touch of craziness. Are you ready, dear dreamer? We've barely scratched the surface of this remarkable age, filled with ambition, sparked by the simplest of inventions. What could possibly come next? Chapter 6, The Electric Oompa Loompas of Menlo Park. Hey guys, tonight we embark on a journey more charged than your neighbor's opinion on the latest TikTok dance challenge. Welcome to the electrifying world of Menlo Park, New Jersey, in 1876, where Thomas Edison and his gang of science wizards tinkered away like caffeinated squirrels in a candy store. If you ever wondered what it was like when the world transitioned from flickering gas lamps to the dazzling glow of electricity, well, buckle up, or rather, plug in your imagination, because it's about to get wild. Now, before we dive into the chaotic charm of men in lab coats rushing about with all the energy of children after a candy binge, I have a few burning questions, sort of like that toaster you keep meant to make breakfast but instead pops up more surprises than an uninvited house guest. Have you ever pondered what modern life would look like without these paper-thin wires running through our homes? Or calculated how many failed dinner party plans were set ablaze, quite literally, in the days before electricity? Do you know how, before Edison's light bulb, someone might have used a chicken with a lantern attached to its neck as a form of illumination? Its spoiler, it didn't go well for the chicken or the guests. So, dim those lights unless you're still clinging onto your dim CFL bulb from 10 years ago and get ready to snuggle in. Throw on a cozy blanket. Grab that ancient snack hiding in the back of your cupboard. Don't worry, it still has some flavor left. Maybe. And let's drift into the fascinating mess of innovation that unfolded in a small, orderly room that, in a bizarre turn of events, would set the world alight. Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1876 in a workshop filled with more wires than a tech convention and what might seem like an unhealthy obsession with gadgets. To your left, Edison stands at a workbench, and you can almost hear the collective buzz of ideas sparking around him like little electric fireflies if fireflies were overly caffeinated and full of wild ambition. The sounds here could compete with the chicken coop at bedtime. There's the rhythmic clatter of tools meeting wood, the occasional rail-thin scream from a test subject, often a toaster who had lost all hope, and the hum of excitement hanging thick in the air, more palpable than a fresh pot of coffee. You can smell the burnt wires mingling with the scent of fried food because, in the pursuit of invention, lunchtime etiquette goes out the window faster than you can say, Oops, I accidentally short-circuited my sandwich. Edison, with his half-manic grin, is surrounded by his team, a curious band of eager disciples ready to do battle against the forces of darkness. Each one is hunched over a workbench, their eyes shining with the kind of ridiculous optimism only a person elbow-deep in fascinating failures can muster. Imagine them wearing lab coats that have probably seen more electrical mishaps than an amateur magician at a kid's birthday party. So many stains, so little time to worry about appearances. Now, you're probably wondering what exactly these vintage nerds were up to in their little corner of the universe. They were dashing around, trying out early electrical components that, let's be real, resembled a cross between a toy from a thrift shop and a mad scientist's worst nightmare. Wires snaked around the shop like an overzealous court organizer, while everyone ambled about, adjusting their spectacles and most definitely almost tripping on something resembling more like a makeshift power strip than a proper workbench arrangement. As you lean closer, you might catch snippets of conversation more riveting than an all-night infomercial. If only we could get this light bulb to shine without also heating the room like a sauna during a heat wave, one engineer exclaims, gesturing wildly with a pair of pliers. You can't help but wonder if these brilliant minds had ever considered that maybe, just maybe, humans should not be able to fry bacon in the glow of an electric light bulb. And then there's the infamous gossip surrounding Edison himself, like a celebrity with more controversies than actual productivity. Did you hear he promised to revolutionize the world with electric light and still managed to drop out of school at 12? Or the time he tried to create an electric-powered potato peeler, which, believe it or not, almost led to an uprising among kitchen gadgets? Who knew carrots could hold such bitter grudges? But despite the chaotic camaraderie and ludicrous experiments, amid the buzzing madness, something monumental was stirring. This team was not just making gadgets, they were reshaping how society would illuminate the nights forevermore. The new age of electricity was approaching, and steps were being taken, one zany invention at a time, to light the way for civilians, whether they were ready or not. In that moment, surrounded by craziness, you might feel the anticipation thickening in the air, an electric hum that has little to do with the machinery. It has everything to do with the feverish delight of possibility. The world as they knew it was on the cusp of changing forever, one aha moment at a time, leading towards a flicker, then a bloom, and finally a glow that would outshine any summer evening bonfire. So as you lay back and let the cacophony of innovation lull you, remember, dear listeners, every scientific discovery began with someone willing to yank their hair out while trying to make two wires connect in a way that would, against all odds, spark the dawn of a new era. And who knows, perhaps while you drift deeper into dreams lit by the wisdom of history, you might discover the same spirit of invention and trial, even wrapped in a blanket of your own making. After all, in the end, it's about the spark of potential that ignites like every light bulb nestled in the glorious history of what was, what is, and what could be. Sweet dreams await, and bright ideas simmer just on the horizon, patiently waiting to illuminate the night. Chapter 7. The Spark That Lit the World. Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a moment more illuminating than your friend's revelation that they only just knew about the existence of humus, the very first public demonstration of the electric light bulb in 1879. Imagine a scene where the press clung to their hats like that one friend who drinks way too much caffeine because Thomas Edison was about to go full wizard mode in Menlo Park. If you feel inspired, by all means, grab your favorite snack and settle into your couch, because the drama, the chaos, and maybe even a few brush fires are about to commence. Now, picture this. How often do you find yourself wishing you could light up a room instantly, without the wrestling match with those old fixtures that seem to have the same spirit of cooperation as your cat during bath time? Have you ever thought about how we take light for granted, flipping a switch like it's a magic wand, while ignoring the fact that just over a century ago, people relied on candles and gas lamps, more stubborn than a toddler refusing a nap? And what about the time it took for Edison and his not-so-minions to make light bulbs chime like a well-tuned orchestra? But enough pondering, let's dim those lights and transport ourselves back. When disappointment came not from a stale TikTok trend, but from yet another failed experiment that made everyone save their popcorn for real-life theater. Congratulations, you've just woken up in a workshop in Menlo Park, where the smell of burnt wires and overzealous ambition dance together like a two-step at a wedding reception, awkward yet oddly entertaining. This workshop doesn't just resemble your typical neighborhood garage. It's a bustling laboratory filled with scientific marvels and misfit contraptions that could only be described as a hodgepodge of creativity. Here, in a room cluttered with yesterday's failed experiments, a flame of hope flickers more brightly than a modern LED bulb. Edison's team of quirky creatives is hard at work, each immersed in the fascinating world of electric experimentation. Wearing lab coats stained with bits of who knows what, their faces light up with an unhinged desire to defy the darkness. You might even hear one of them mumbling, "I swear, if this bulb works, I'm calling dibs on the next light-themed dinner." Party! As you stroll through this electrifying space, you can hear the sounds of clinking glass, sizzling metal, and most importantly, the sound of genius colliding with ridiculousness. It's like a symphony conducted by the orchestra of chaos itself. If only we can get this filament to down. Glow without also roasting the marshmallows. We're not even cooking, one engineer exclaims, reminding you that not all ideas will yield a perfect s'more. In a little corner, you find Edison himself, conducting electricity like a maestro directing a powerful symphony, with wild hair that could make a bird's nest envious. He flips, switches, and jots down notes, all while occasionally shouting to his team, "Remember, guys, we're not just inventing light bulbs. We're ushering in an age where nobody will need to get ready for bed before sunset." Meanwhile, another engineer mumbles about last week's glorious failure involving more wires than sense. It ended in disappointment and a minor electrical explosion that rendered their afternoon snacks combustible and their lunch plans ruined. Let's just say prunes and sparks don't mix well. Who knew that turning a light on could also turn lunch into a high-stakes challenge? But despite the strange smell of burnt toast that has become synonymous with their work, there's an energy buzzing through the air, a palpable anticipation that something historic is on the verge of happening. Edison's eyes gleam as he adjusts the carbonized bamboo filament, his last-ditch effort to prove to the world that with one simple flick, a dark room could transform into a glorious oasis of light. Suddenly, with a flourish that can only be described as a cross between a magician revealing a grand secret and a child showing off their latest crayon masterpiece, the room fills with the radiant glow of a well-deserved light bulb. Cue the applause. A single filament glows steadily, pushing back the darkness that had been an unfailing, stubborn presence in homes for eons. It's as if a million tiny stars have just flared into existence within those four walls, each celebrating the birth of a new era. You have to wonder, what were people thinking, watching Edison's miracles unfold? Did they realize they were witnessing the dawn of the electric age? Or were they more preoccupied with how they might never have to wrestle with zesty, stinky kerosene lamps again? The joy of progress, steeped in disbelief, might have haunted them long after the demonstration ended, as they excitedly rushed home to tell their families that the dark days of gas lamps and too frequent chimney sweeps might soon be over. And just like that, history was made with the flick of a switch, a single bulb igniting dreams, ingenuity, and a brush with brilliance that would light the way for generations to come. No need for a magic wand when you've got a carbonized bamboo filament in your back pocket. So next time you flip that light switch, remember Edison's eccentric crew, who risked singed eyebrows and the occasional explosion in the name of progress. Because when it comes to illuminating the world, they were most definitely worth every shocking moment. Sweet dreams, dear friends, as you nap under your electric, bulbs merrily oblivious to the shadows of the past. Chapter 8. Light it up, baby. Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a moment brighter than your future after that 2023 resolution to actually start exercising. Yes indeed, we're heading to Lower Manhattan in 1882, when electricity made a debut that would make even the most glamorous of explosion scenes in today's movies look like a garden party. Imagine the smell of innovation, mixed with that tantalizing scent of burnt toast, and a hint of the chaotic vibe you'd get from a cat stuck in a tree while fireworks are going off below. Take a moment right now to conjure up a picture of the world back then. It's like entering an era where every flickering gas lamp shouted, "Let's not be too bright, shall we?" Can you picture the locals ambling about with their gas lamps, holding them like they're trying to scrape together some semblance of daylight in a world perpetually painted in shadows. I mean, how ridiculous is that? Were they ever tempted to just start shouting at the lamps like, really, a flicker is all you've got? But don't get too cozy, because soon these poor souls won't need to shout at the lamps anymore. With the invention of Edison's power station, it's a little like handing an iPhone to someone trapped in a flip phone world. Except better, because poof. Suddenly, the dark, puddle-strewn streets of Manhattan are illuminating like a dance floor at your cousin's wedding where everyone suddenly remembers how to do the Macarena. Picture this now, as you take a deep breath and slowly close your eyes. You've just woken up in 1882, right smack dab in the middle of the hustle and bustle of Manhattan. Your senses are assaulted by an extraordinary mix of aromas. Fresh baked bread wafting from a nearby bakery, horse manure from the street, genuine gourmet aroma, and in an act of wild rebellion, freshly cut grass from the park, as if nature itself is chiding the era's industrial buzz. Now, let's dig a little deeper, shall we? Can you hear the clanging of iron tools and the whistles of steam-powered machines? They're chugging along, working harder than you did during your last Zoom call when you pretended to be engaged. And if the energy in the air weren't enough, picture yourself dodging excited pedestrians clamoring about as if they had just downed a triple shot espresso at their local cafe. Everyone's buzzing, and you can't help but wonder, how do they find time to gossip about the weather when the light bulbs would soon dazzle them into a state of euphoria? But alas, that delightful transition wasn't without some significant friction, because nothing ever is. It's like when your Wi-Fi drops out during the best part of your latest binge watch. People weren't entirely convinced that this newfangled electricity was anything more than a passing fad, akin to bell-bottom jeans or powdered wigs. The gas company, in a last-ditch effort to stay relevant, might have seen Edison's innovation as a direct affront, akin to someone trying to replace their beloved VHS with a streaming service. Imagine a time when residents of Lower Manhattan were facing a dangerous rivalry. Gaslight versus electric light. Street lamps flickered grudgingly, as if they had feelings and deep-seated insecurities. Just picture it, a gas lamp on one end of the street, sulking in the corner while an electrifying bulb shines like a superstar on the other. It must have been like watching a game of chess between two grumpy neighbors, one determined to throw shade while the other declared it was time to illuminate the world. I can't let you outshine me, the gas lamp seems to mutter as it sputters and flickers with jealousy. Now, enter Edison's first commercial power station, a hotbed of creativity and electric potential. Can you feel the anticipation buzzing in the air as Edison and his eccentric team get ready to flip the switch? It's almost palpable, like the scent of burnt popcorn when a movie is about to start, but no one would dare admit it. Cranky gas lamps probably held their breath, murmuring conspiracies about their glowing counterparts. It's amazing how drama unfolds when ambivalence over light fixtures turns into an intense power struggle. As Edison's commercial power station hums into operation, watch how the streets transform. The newfound electric light doesn't just illuminate, it transforms the cityscape into a fantastical playground of options. People stroll around with wide eyes and bright smiles, feeling as though they've escaped their drab everyday lives and hopped onto a rainbow-colored unicorn. It's like going from wearing a potato sack to donning velvet robes adorned with extravagant jewels, an upgrade of monumental proportions. Can you hear the laughter bubbling up as children chase each other in glowing streets, unshackled by the fears of what lurked in the shadows? For these residents of 1882, the darkness dissipates like a bad dream upon waking. It's nothing short of electric euphoria, a festival of light amongst the dreary remnants of gas lamps that stubbornly flicker like an old TV desperately trying to tune into the right channel. And as the sun sets, the city glows anew, a dazzling testament to ambition, innovation, and possibly the world's longest collective sigh of relief. Turning the lights on was not something most folks ever imagined yet. There they were, standing beneath a cascade of illumination, half convinced they'd stepped into an electrifying dream. So, dear dreamer, as you drift into a restful sleep, let the glow of Edison's first power station light your dreams tonight. Much better than wrangling flickering gas lamps, wouldn't you say? Sweet dreams await, built atop layers of societal transformation, electrifying moments, and those sweet, warm bulbs that are so warmly replacing the gaslights of yesteryear. Chapter 9, When Sound Met Wonder. Hey guys, welcome back to the whimsical world of history, where every fascinating footnote is just waiting to turn into a rip-roaring sleep tale. Tonight, we're diving deeper than your high school history notes, into the busy streets of 1870, as we uncover a story more astonishing than your neighbor's questionable dance moves during holiday parties. Yes, we're taking a stroll past the cobbled pathways of yesteryear to a moment when the world heard sound for the very first time, not live, mind you, but on repeat, like that one catchy pop song you just can't shake off. Can you imagine a time when people were so bewildered by a gadget that they wondered if it was powered by actual enchantment? I mean, are we talking about a world where folk whispered about magic like it was the local gossip? What if, instead of enjoying Netflix, you had to applaud the invention of the phonograph as if it were a Harry Potter spell gone wild? You might be thinking, wow, this is great, but what does this have to do with my daily life beyond my obsession with last-minute online shopping? Just you wait. Have you ever opened a can of soup and heard that glorious pop? Or cranked up your vinyl record, only to hear your favorite tune crackling to life? We're already on the verge of a delightfully delicious comparison here. Now, imagine if that little pop was actually a proclamation of progress that turned people's heads and dropped their jaws at the same time. You're about to cozy up on a couch surrounded by stunned crowds who can't quite believe their ears. So grab your pillow, dim the lights, and let's teleport ourselves back to a time when sound invented itself. Congratulations. You've just woken up in 1877, and the air around you is thick with excitement, and let's be honest, a fair bit of skepticism. You're standing among a spirited crowd, and they're not merely discussing the weather or why the bread hasn't risen in days. No, sir. Today, they are gathered around an object that looks like a mishmash of a top hat and a coffee grinder. And guess what? It's cranking out recorded sound. You might say it's the precursor to every "this is your captain speaking" message you've ever endured. As the crank turns, it whirs to life. Think of it like the world's first karaoke machine, except it only knows the song Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. The crowd gasps, a rumble of intrigue rippling through them, like the latest meme going viral. You can smell a mix of sweat, wonder, and exactly too many onions from the nearby vendors selling questionable hot dogs. Now, here's the kicker. The phonograph isn't just a novelty, it's a harbinger of sound's future, like a food truck promising to change your life one taco at a time. The folks around you can barely comprehend what's happening. Is that voice from the heavens? Someone gasps. No, Martha, it's just a talking machine. Another responds, half enamored and half convinced a mischievous gnome is lurking nearby. And there's the point. Can you just picture these Victorian-era folks in their dapper straw hats and equally absurd waistcoats, clutching onto their steaming cups while trying to rationalize the concept of recorded sound? It's like someone told them that their parakeets could start scheduling appointments, and they're all too baffled to roll with it. Do you believe in magic? Asks a lady in a frilly dress, as another gentleman counters, I believe in better explanations than magic. Soon, the venue becomes a laugh-a-minute spectacle, where theories run rampant. This mischievous machine, cranking out old-timey tunes, could easily be seen as the devil's work, or a sideshow that could give a circus tent some serious competition. Just imagine the chatter. What if it's a time portal? Are we summoning the great composers, or merely inviting a symphony of destiny? Over a chorus of laughter as people try to mic check a machine with no mic. Let's take a moment to step back and reflect on this insanity. Think about how you might feel if you stumbled upon something that sounds eerily similar to your favorite track but with a dusty old twist. It's like discovering a favorite childhood cartoon character was actually based on a potato. Such discoveries leave you scratching your head and questioning everything you thought you knew about art, life, and deli sandwiches. But remember, it's 1877. And the phonograph isn't just revolutionizing entertainment, it's creating social chaos. Suddenly, everyone believes they have the right to critique music like there's some avant-garde judges at a dance-off. Dreadful. Where is the jazz? Someone sneers, unaware that jazz is still decades away. Forget the sounds. We must demand the volume. Cries a man, clutching a pocket watch like a life preserver in this overwhelming auditory sea. As murmurs of admiration blend with guffaws of mockery, the crowd starts to disperse, but not before grumbling about how this charming new device can't make breakfast or even do their laundry. It's like the ultimate intelligent assistant that forgot how to handle the cake while still managing to turn the entire world upside down. As twilight descends upon the gathering, you can bet that the wonders of sound will echo far beyond this peculiar, crank-driven contraption. So, dear dreamer, as you drift into a peaceful slumber, let the mesmerizing hum of this historical moment cradle you tonight. Revel in the absurdities of sound and invention while your mind unwinds from the chaos of the day. There's a world of whimsical wonders waiting just around your dreams, hopefully without the overwhelming scent of onions. And with that, I'll bid you good night. May your dreams be filled with magnificent musings, sounds of laughter, and a bit of delightful confusion, just like that quirky crowd was in 1877, Chapter 10, The Great Hodgepodge of Invention. Hey guys! Welcome back to the wild and wonderful land of history, where every dusty artifact tells a tale, and every timeline is packed tighter than your favorite childhood arcade game cabinet. Tonight, we're tuning in to the late 1880 seconds, a time when people thought it was all fun and games until they discovered electricity. Then it was mostly just about figuring out how not to fry a finger in the process. Yes, dear listener, it's an era bustling with invention, ideas swirling like a mix of novelty, popcorn, and the scent of overcooked cabbage. Imagine walking through a workshop filled with the buzzing excitement of energy, where inventors are less like the elegant thinkers you see in films and more like caffeinated squirrels fumbling with tools. You might even have a heartwarming glimpse of a mustachioed gentleman contemplating a tiny contraption, thinking it might just be the next big thing, like that time your neighbor thought brewing kombucha in their kitchen was a good idea. Spoiler, it wasn't. But I digress. As you settle down, I encourage you to dim the lights, pull up a blanket, and prepare for a journey into a workshop where the air is thick with invention, laughter, and probably a fair amount of machine grease. What if I told you that, in just a heartbeat, you'd find yourself surrounded by a cast of characters trying to revolutionize entertainment one crank at a time? Ever wondered how on earth people survived without binge-watching their favorite shows? Or contemplated how they lived without smart devices constantly reminding them to stay hydrated? Well, fasten your imaginary seatbelt. It's going to be a comical ride. Congratulations, you've just woken up in a workshop in 1888, surrounded by the hum of hope and the whir of invention. You're standing shoulder to shoulder with a ragtag team of inventors, each of them more ambitious than a squirrel after a nut truck, determined to unveil their latest and possibly most absurd creation, the kinetoscope. It's basically a glorified peephole for moving pictures, designed to uplift humanity while simultaneously confusing the heck out of half of it. Think of it as the first version of a video game console, minus the sleek design and more like that weird cousin who insists on showing you their PowerPoint on why pineapple belongs. On pizza, in this dimly lit room filled with the aroma of burnt toast and the crisp scent of possibility, the team resembles a band of eccentric wizards. Their tools are cobbled together from bits of metal, old gears, and perhaps a sprinkle of luck, the sort of concoction that makes you question whether this venture is an experiment in creativity or a recipe for disaster. They holler and laugh, providing the sort of energy that would make even a double shot of espresso seem sluggish by comparison. As you watch, the kinetoscope takes shape, a curious machine teetering on the edge of genius, or madness, depending on your perspective. You see a crank, reminiscent of that sketchy vending machine in the break room that only sometimes dispenses candy, and a small glass peephole, where film reels will soon dance to life, presenting moving images, like some medieval magic trick gone, slightly skewed. Can you hear the excitement in the air? It's as if every inventor in the room is waiting for their peanut butter and jelly moment, desperate to see if their unlikely concoction will change the world or merely leave them with a sticky mess. As the first demonstration approaches, the atmosphere thickens like when your dog has just knocked over a vase and you're bracing for the wrath of your significant other. Flashes of anticipation pulse through the crew as they scramble to ensure everything works smoothly. No pressure or anything, right? This apparatus has the potential to launch humanity into the future, or at least to entertain a few curious onlookers. And voila! With a flick of the wrist, the crank begins its delightful labor, unveiling a dazzling array of moving images that seem too absurd to exist. People dancing, chickens waddling, and someone's unfortunate decision to juggle flaming torches. The room erupts into laughter, gasps, and that delightful sound of disbelief, a bit like your great uncle when he first saw what a microwave could do. The kinetoscope is just clever enough to leave folks wondering if a prankster is behind. The curtain, pulling strings like an old-timey puppeteer. But wait, just when you think it can't get any quirkier, the crowd of inventors begins to argue passionately about what the next picture should be. Perhaps a comedic skit featuring an unfortunate cat jumping into a bucket, or maybe a riveting raccoon racing against a tortoise. The debates grow louder, reaching fever pitch as the room bubbles with the kind of uninhibited enthusiasm only found in quirky workshops fueled by dreams and perhaps a smidge too much coffee. And let's not forget the logistics. Picking the subjects, deciding on the moving scenes, if only they'd had the foresight to market this contraption with hashtags. Can you imagine? Cats and buckets. However, amid the jovial chaos, someone realizes they have no clue how to actually project it to more than one person at a time. Picture the disappointment, folks. It's like stirring up your entire social circle for an unveiling only to find out you're serving lukewarm soup instead of a gourmet feast. By now, the air is positively electric with creativity and the scent of perspiration, all mixed with the hint of disaster. The kinetoscope, a marvel of invention resembling a caffeinated squirrel on caffeine pills, promises to take its viewers on a delightful journey through the unexpected joys of life. And while the inventors scramble to perfect their tinkering, one thing becomes clear. You've just witnessed a moment in full. History where passion and absurdity intertwined to plant the seeds of modern entertainment, forever changing the way we experience life, laughter, and perhaps a few strange cats along the way. So as you drift off into a cozy slumber, let the inventive spirit of the late 1,880 seconds swirl around you like the ethereal scent of fresh popcorn at a movie theater. May your dreams be vibrant, filled with moving pictures, absurd competitions, and maybe even that mischievous raccoon going for gold. Good night, and sweet dreams. Chapter 11, a shocking start to the world. Hey guys, welcome back to another wild roller coaster ride through history, where we've got more clashing inventions than an over-caffeinated raccoon in a trash can. Tonight, we're diving deep into the stormy mountains of the Austrian Empire in 1856, during an electrifying moment, or should I say, mildly shocking, when a little child with a big destiny was born. Spoiler alert. No, it isn't the plot twist of your favorite soap opera, but the beginning of a saga that will tickle your brain and shuffle your socks. Before we embark on this slightly damp yet riveting journey, go ahead and dim those lights. Maybe grab a snack, preferably not a turnip, unless you're into really rough dining experiences. And please, take a moment to prepare. Ask yourself, what would it be like to be born during a thunderstorm? Was the first thing baby? Nikola Tesla heard the crack of thunder, or was it his mother whispering, "Great, just what we needed, another source of energy in the family"? What would happen if your childhood involved more lightning than a heavy metal concert? And, most importantly, how many times can the poor midwife drop her instruments while trying to juggle the birth of future genius in a stormy tantrum? With those whimsical musings fluttering in your mind, congratulations. You've just woken up on a stormy night in 1856 in the grand but somewhat moist village of Smiljan. The air is thick and charged, an indication that Mother Nature is in a decidedly dramatic mood. Lightning streaks ominously through the mountainous sky like an over-caffeinated child coloring outside the lines. As you hang on to your blanket for emotional support, you might just imagine that you could hear it crackle with energy, like the way you'd gaze at a live wire at a science fair and think, what could go wrong? Picture the scene! Inside a humble wooden shack, lit by flickering candlelight, a midwife is frantically trying to handle this baby business, while the expectant parents do their best to look calm. Spoiler, they're not. Nicola's mother, a rather wise woman with an air of superiority that only a mother can muster in the face of possible electrocution, glances at the midwife with a knowing look. Do we really need to whisper ominous things about my son's fate? I mean, look at that. Lightning. He's basically destined to invent something that will shine brighter than my Aunt Petunia's holiday decorations. Ah, yes. The original fairy tale begins with a flash of thunder, a dramatic birth story that sounds like the opening scene of a superhero movie. And just like most superhero origins, it comes with plenty of irony. Imagine being a historical figure whose first moments are punctuated by Mother Nature's more theatrical outbursts. While you're nestled among blankets that smell faintly of sheep, this little fellow, unbeknownst to all, is destined to pivot the very fabric of modern civilization. Little did everyone know they should have been keeping the candles away from the electric potential of this child from the get-go. And let's shift gears for a moment and compare this situation to our not-so-humble lives today. You think the delivery room has its share of chaos? Try having a midwife bouncing around while thunder slams like the world's worst DJ. If the hospitals in today's world feel more high-tech than a sci-fi movie, the birthing experience back then was a cross between a chaotic circus and an unmonitored science experiment. These poor families had to improvise everything from light sources to baby swaddling techniques, just hoping that the newborn didn't accidentally invent wireless communication while still in the cradle. As the storm rages outside, the baby's cries pierce the tumult, a pitch so high it could probably shatter glass. The midwife scrambles, and in a moment of total mayhem she fumbles, sending her equipment flying across the room like confetti at a wedding. "Please don't drop that," you might whisper, half laughing, half wincing at the very thought. How does one explain broken equipment to the new parents? Sorry, we seem to have misplaced your baby's first ultrasound in the bushes outside. Could have sworn I saw it out there. But I digress. Nicola's mother is no novice to motherhood. Armed with wit sharper than a lightning bolt and more nurturing power than a pack of nurses armed with lollipops, she firmly holds the tiny wizard in her arms. As the electrical energy crackles outside, she snickers softly, thinking about how her bouncy baby might just revolutionize the world for better or worse. At least you won't have to worry about turning the lights on in Biz. "This house," she muses, fully aware that her little bundle of joy might just create the world's first battery-operated baby monitor. So as the storms rage on, nature apparently rooting for Tesla to take on the world, you might find yourself tucked away, warm under layers of cozy blankets, feeling the surreal connection to a past defined by whimsical chaos. Picture this lively birth experience. With the thunder booming like a faulty sound system at a summer concert, the midwife's frenzied dance for survival, and a mother's unwavering belief that her child would outshine even Mother Nature herself. And just like that unforgettable night, as you nestle into your own bed, let the tale of young Nikola Tesla electrify your dreams, fusing absurdity and awe long enough to lull you into slumber. May the visions of cranky midwives and harmless thunderstorms spark your imagination. Good night and sweet dreams. Chapter 12. The Power of Imagination. When machines run wild in the mind. Hey guys, welcome back, Cozy Night Owls. Tonight, we're about to jump into a world where young dreamers can manifest entire machines in their minds, while the rest of us are just trying to remember where we left our phones. Spoiler alert. Probably in the fridge next to last week's leftovers. So, prepare yourselves for a journey through the steam-soaked gears and chaotic currents of the Second Industrial Revolution. Imagine a time when inventors like an overly ambitious macaw were flapping their wings, trying to take flight without a safety net, or at least a proper understanding of aerodynamics. Before we plunge into this whimsical tale, I invite you to dim those lights, place a pillow under your head, maybe grab a midnight snack. I mean, who doesn't love a snack at 12 in the morning? But do make sure it's not a turnip again. Those things just don't agree with bedtime. You'll be snoring louder than a distant steam engine. Now, let's contemplate a few questions that will drift you down the river of absurdity. Have you ever tried to focus during a boring lecture, only to find yourself daydreaming about inventing a toaster that can also make coffee while simultaneously solving world hunger? Or have you stared into space, imagining a world where we teleport instead of endure that awkward small talk at the bus stop? If you think you're imaginative, brace yourself, because tonight we're diving headfirst into a young mind bursting with creativity and inspiration. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1870, a bustling classroom with wooden desks more creaky than your old sofa. The air smells mystifyingly of chalk dust mixed with the faint aroma, something resembling unwashed socks. And there, front and center, sits a young Nikola Tesla, who by all appearances should probably be daydreaming about running carefree through butterfly-filled meadows rather than conjuring complex machines. But let's talk about that little photographic memory of his. Picture this. While the teacher is droning on about the advantages of integrating calculus into daily life, yawn, Nikola is off in a galaxy far, far away, imagining a mechanical marvel spinning and whirring in his mind. It's as if a light bulb had pinged on inside that brilliant head of his, illuminating ideas like a cosmic disco party. Meanwhile, the classroom roars with the laughter of kids who think the concept of electricity is just the latest prank by that kid who can always get under the teacher's skin. Now, if you were there, you might find yourself caught in the irresistible urge to disrupt his daydreaming. Hey, Nikola, could you imagine an ice cream machine that dispenses sandwiches? You'd half whisper, half laugh. Tesla would just blink once or twice, the wheels in his head spinning faster than a hamster on caffeine. Why would we sandwich ice? Cream? He might mumble back, his tone equal parts bewildered and intrigued. The teacher, meanwhile, still battling it out with his perpetual state of disinterest, claps his hands sharply to regain the classroom's attention. All right, children. Today, we tackle the important question of energy sources. But you already know Tesla's ears perk up like a dog nearby a treat jar. Energy sources? This kid could invent a contraption that harnesses the force of yawn as one of those sources, and it wouldn't surprise you in the least. Just imagine the joy that rises in Nikola's mind. It spins with visions of electrical currents running through copper wires, transmitting information like a gossip network, heckling the neighbor's cat that thinks it's a lion. He sees trains chugging along, powered by the phenomenon of alternating current, and it makes him giggle like a child, unraveling a jumbled ball of yarn. If I can make this work, no one will need to complain about their morning commute ever again. But let's be honest. While Nikola's daydreams are dancing a merry jig, the rest of the students are throwing stray paper airplanes and making swishing sounds that resemble confused horses. It's like a battle between the forces of imagination and basic schoolyard chaos. Other kids are picturing themselves as their favorite superheroes, while young Tesla is foreshadowing the rise of the modern electrical age, his very own form of superpower. Imagine being a teacher in this scenario, armed with no more than a piece of chalk, while the future leader of electricity's thoughts zoom way past your grasp. How could you compete? You wouldn't be able to find a stick long enough to poke him out of that stupor. Ah, yes. Just a normal day teaching. Right, kids, you'd say to yourself with a sarcastic chuckle, while keeping an eye on the clock. Your own patience wearing thinner than bread from last week. While the teacher struggles to rein in the excitement, Nikola's visualization intensifies. He can practically feel the thrum of gears. Under his fingertips, taste the metallic future hanging tantalizingly close, like a delicious last slice of pizza at a party. And if you're lucky enough to observe this genius in action, you'd be tempted to lean in conspiratorially and say, you know, if you invent a machine that makes breakfast, this could become a blockbuster hit. But dear listeners, this riveting escapade is just a warm-up act. You see, while students everywhere are squabbling over who gets the last desk, young Nikola imagines a world of infinite possibilities, because as the clock ticks away, trapped in textbooks and formulas, one thing is clear. Behind those sleepy eyes lies a brewing storm of ideas, some more useful than others, laying the groundwork for a future filled with electricity, machines, and every interpretation of genius that could ever grace the pages of history. As he sits there, daydreaming amid the whirlwinds of invention, you can't help but wonder if his young self knew he would one day illuminate a world that had barely begun to grasp the power of energy. So allow your imagination to roam, just like Nicholas, and let the whirl of creativity lull you into the blissful depths of your sleep. Sweet dreams, fellow inventors. Chapter 13. The Current Affair. Young Tesla's Electromagnetic Daydreams. Hey guys, welcome back, Bedtime Adventurers. Tonight, we're diving into a realm where electricity is as shocking as your friends believe that pineapple belongs on pizza. We're about to enter the world of Nikola Tesla, a young genius whose ideas were brighter than 1,000 party poppers at New Year's. But before we drift off into this electrifying adventure, just a gentle reminder, as smooth as a freshly polished light bulb, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, but only if you genuinely enjoy this escapade, because we wouldn't want to pressure anyone into a relationship that's more one-sided than your last Tinder date, right? So dim those lights, possibly aim a fan toward your face, because nothing says I'm ready for sleep like a mild breeze that makes you feel as if you're in a sitcom scene set in an overly dramatic hurricane. And as you settle in, ponder these questions. Have you ever found yourself obsessed with an idea, plotting grand inventions while battling the overwhelming desire to take a nap? Ever wished you could somehow harness your cat's energy into a renewable power source? Because, let's be honest, they're practically miniature tyrants of the household. How about that time you accidentally zapped yourself trying to fix your toaster only to realize it was just broken? Congratulations! You've just woken up in Graz, Austria in the year 1870 a time, when the air was thick with chalk dust and the scent of hope mingled with, well, let's hope it's not that weird cafeteria broccoli smell wafting in from the back. The classroom feels more like a weathered ship caught in the stormy seas of youthful chaos. Desks creak like the bones of an old sailor, and the sunlight filters in through grimy windows, casting a holy glow that would make any Instagram filter blush in jealousy. Up front, you find a young Nikola Tesla sitting there, sketching diagrams of alternating current with the fervor of someone who just discovered a hidden stash of candy. His pencil dances across the page like a hyperactive bee at a flower convention, aimed firmly at one goal, revolutionizing the way we harness energy. And let's be clear, his idea of fun is no trip to the amusement park. It's debating the merits of magnetic fields over a slice of stale bread. As the teacher drones on about direct current, you can see Tesla's mind slipping through dimensions. You know that feeling when you're trying to focus on a work project, and suddenly the idea of building a jetpack made from water bottles and rubber bands seems more achievable? Yep, that's Tesla at his desk, envisioning the future faster than you can say, is this a power outage or just Tuesday? Let's talk about the academic atmosphere, shall we? Students around him are rolling their eyes and contemplating whether the best career path involves becoming a professional, napper, or launching a successful paper airplane franchise. But Tesla, oh no, for him, there's a hidden world pulsing with untapped possibilities, a reality where electricity flows freely like chocolate on pancakes. He is, quite literally, sparking ideas before the rest of the world even knows what a light switch looks like. Picture the sheer chaos of that classroom. The chatter of gossiping classmates bounces off the walls like a group of caffeinated squirrels. One small child in the corner has befriended a remarkably bored fly, while another is crafting a paper boat meant to conquer a puddle that they insist is a boat-worthy ocean. Meanwhile, Tesla's imagination is sailing straight into the skies, where electrical currents dance like they're at a disco, and ideas collide in a euphoric explosion of creativity. But back to Tesla. While others toy with mundane childhood ideas, like achieving the perfect pencil grip, he's off in the wings of creation, plotting a world illuminated by the magic of alternating current. You might lean over and imagine whispering, you know, if you invent a device that makes breakfast while also vacuuming, we definitely have your future sorted. His little heart races with excitement, because who doesn't want to dream of a kitchen companion that tosses out beautifully crisp toast while keeping the floor minus the crumbs? But in the midst of this electrifying daydream, the classroom continues its battle of boredom versus genius. You can almost hear the gears in his head churning, picturing trains powered by his revolutionary current gliding along tracks laid down by the giants of the steam age. It's a mechanized miracle he's dreaming of. If I create this, he thinks, morning commuters will finally... We have something pleasant to read, rather than articles on how to set fire to their toast. And while students around him play paper football or do their best impersonation of tired sloths, you wonder, how can a teacher compete against the sheer energy of a young visionary? Maybe by declaring a surprise holiday for the class good luck, redirecting that enthusiasm. So, Here we find ourselves surrounding a boy who has arguably one of the most electric imaginations the world has ever witnessed. If only the world could see this magnificent spirit struggling in a tempest of equations and makeshift ideas that, while a smidge chaotic, are gaining electric momentum right before our eyes. In this bustling, creative space, life unfurls with a curious beauty, deliciously chaotic and ferociously hopeful. As Tesla doodles away like a caffeinated octopus, one thing's for sure: the night is still young, and this spark of innovation is just the beginning. So, as you nestle deeper under your covers, let the hum of possibility translate into relaxing dreams of electric futures and imaginative splendor. Sweet visions await. Chapter 14, The War of Currents, Edison, Tesla, and a shocking rivalry. Hey guys, welcome back, dear dreamers, and prepare your minds for a story that's more electrifying than finding an extra slice of pizza at the bottom of the box. Tonight, we will shimmy down the fantastical rabbit hole of The War of Currents, where our two main characters, Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, are about to embark on a duel that's juicier than a soap opera, but with more spark. Imagine a battle fought not with swords or armor, but with copper wires, and ideas more shocking than the realization that your favorite sweater is now 2 sizes too small. You know, like finding out that those one-size-fits-all pants really don't. So, as we flick the switch on this journey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment though, only if you genuinely enjoy this electric tale, because we wouldn't want to maintain a relationship that's more one-sided than a bad Tinder date, right? Now, dim those lights, adjust your pillows, and settle in, because we're about to explore a world where the very air crackles with energy faster than your morning coffee takes to kick in. Have you ever been so excited about an idea that you felt it buzzing in your fingertips? Or perhaps pondered whether inventing a time machine would let you skip that boring work meeting? Then again, maybe you just end up face to face with your younger self, arguing over why you didn't invest in that stock. Congratulations. You've just woken up in America in the late 1800s, a time when people were more curious about the future than a cat staring at a dot from a laser pointer. It's the second industrial revolution. Razor blades might still be made of wood, but at least folks are starting to figure out how to harness energy without summoning the devil. Now, imagine standing on a dramatic map of the United States, where Edison and Tesla are on polar opposite sides, separated by a vast lightning bolt of doom, symbolizing not just the shocking rivalry, but also the general chaos of figuring out how to light up a nation. You might recall, growing up, when you thought your sibling stealing the remote was an epic betrayal. Now imagine you're in a standoff where your ideas for power supply are literally making the world hum with possibility. So we have Edison, who believed in the steadfast reliability of direct current, DC, like the grandpa who insists on using the same ancient tool for every job. Direct current is reliable, but as exciting as watching paint dry. It's like trying to power an amusement park with a bicycle. Sure, it can work, but do you really want to only go in circles? Then there's Tesla, with his zest for alternating current, AC, the party animal of the electrical world. Picture AC as a wild dance move at a wedding. It's unpredictable, it twirls and flips, and seems to have access to an unlimited playlist of electric joy. It quickly becomes clear that if anyone's gonna power the future with pizzazz, it's gonna be Tesla, prancing around like a scantily clad disco dancer. Let's pivot to the hilarious absurdity of the time. Imagine Edison furiously working on his carbon filament light bulbs, possibly while muttering about how anyone who would ever use a flip phone would be better off fetching water by hand. Meanwhile, Tesla is off in his workshop, covered in grease, and contemplating the possibility that lightning could be harnessed into something that not only lights your home, but might even make toast. Yes, folks, the dream of breakfast, perfection, and electricity all rolled into one. Now picture the chaos as Edison tries to convince the public that his DC was the better choice, sending shock waves of electric propaganda through town with all the allure of a used car salesman. Think of him proclaiming, "With my direct current, we can power factories, homes, and yes, even dubious ideas from that one guy named Henry." Meanwhile, Tesla stands in the shadows, plotting how to handle the situation with the grace of a ballet dancer on roller skates. The two men became more than just inventors. They embodied the spirit of innovation, like two cats locked in an intense staring contest. Each believed their version of electricity would become the lifeblood of modern civilization, and while they were at it, they both faced the daunting task of convincing the sleepy masses snuggled under their horse blankets that they needed to embrace this spark of change. Ever watched someone trying to explain new technology to their grandparents? Yep, that was like your great-grandfather arguing about why TV should be bigger than his entire house. And, oh, the public spectacles that unfolded. At one point, Edison even attempted to show how dangerous AC could be by electrocuting a poor elephant named Topsy. Yes, folks, you can't make this up. Imagine a crowd gasping, whispering, and clutching their pearls as if they were at the most dramatic part of a telenovela. Who knew science could be such a bloody spectacle? In this face-off between Edison's reliable yet soothing nature and Tesla's flashy, chaotic joy, you couldn't help but wonder who would ultimately bring light into the world. It's the showdown between precision and pizzazz, reliability and risks, like trying to choose between sturdy, sensible shoes and rollerblades. Both have their merits, but only one will have you flying past the neighbors with the wind in your hair. As we settle back into this chaotic era of sparks and rivalry, keep your eyes peeled for the antics of these titans fueled by ambition, jealousy, and a rowdy crowd. Whether it's Edison tying up elephants to prove a point, or Tesla dazzling the masses with his visions of electric wonder, one thing becomes abundantly clear. The future is bright, quite literally, and those who dare to dream will always stand out in the most electrifying ways. So, nestled under your warm blanket, allow yourself to drift off, dreaming about the power of possibility, as the sparks of imagination dance around your cozy mind. Sweet dreams await. Chapter 15. The Tower of Dreams and Wireless Schemes. Hey guys, welcome back, dear dreamers, and prepare to be swept into a story that has more layers than a 20-layer cake made in an attempt to impress your in-laws. Tonight, we're diving into the whimsical world of Tesla's dream, specifically his ambitious yet tragically unfinished Wardenclyffe Tower. Picture it, a tall, majestic structure standing defiantly against the misty sky, almost like a confused giant who walked onto the wrong set at a movie shoot. So, as we embark on this journey, remember to like and subscribe and comment, though, only if you actually enjoy this tale, my friends, because we wouldn't want a relationship that's more one-sided than a badly flipped pancake. Now, dim those lights, wrap yourself in your coziest blanket, and let's imagine for a moment, what if you had a brilliant vision that everyone thought was completely nuts? Ever pondered why your houseplant is thriving while you flail hopelessly through adulthood? Or maybe you wished you could beam your thoughts across a crowded room like some high-tech telepath? Congratulations, you've just woken up. In 1905, the age where dreams were supposed to be as tangible as the top hats men wore daily. Yet they often hovered somewhere between genius and utter absurdity. As you step into this time, your nose is met with the faint smell of ozone and ripe hopes, but also the unmistakable scent of failure, lurking within the shadows. The Wardenclyffe Tower, still under construction, looms over the landscape like an awkward teenager ready for prom, filled with potential but desperately in need of a little polish and maybe some better shoes. The second industrial revolution is in full swing, bustling around you like an overly caffeinated ant colony. Imagine being a worker, darting from task to task, your mind racing faster than your legs as you wonder, can we consider live-in hamster wheels as a serious workout plan? And just beyond the chaos, there's Tesla, standing before his grand tower, tirelessly promoting his dream of free, wireless power. Ah, the ambition, like trying to convince your neighbor to let you siphon off their Wi-Fi so you don't have to pay those pesky bills. Wardenclyffe Tower was meant to be the crown jewel of electrical innovation. Tesla envisioned a world where energy danced freely through the air, charging phones, lighting homes, and maybe even providing your cat with gourmet food on demand. Yes, can you imagine? Cats lounging in lazy bliss, their energy bills paid in invisible currents, all while humans stood by scratching their heads and wondering how they'd pay for a refill on their overpriced coffee. But oh, the humor and the reality surrounding poor Tesla. It's important to note that he was not only juggling theoretical physics, he was also balancing the whims of investors who, much like your relatives at a family gathering, were never really on the same page. Sure, Nicola, they might have said, while stealing glances at their watches. Let's invest millions into this dream of yours. While we're at it, can you also tell me why my dog's breath smells worse than a vat of old cheese? Picture it. The tower surrounded by stacks of incomplete blueprints and the ever-looming dread of disappointing investors. It was as if the cosmos itself laughed at Tesla, tossing out a cosmic joke about how his glorious vision was as far from reality as ever. You might say the project was half finished much, like that DIY shelf project you started last summer but never quite got around to completing. And oh, dear friends, let's talk about the aesthetic of this grand tower. It was a strange blend of futuristic marvel and sad ruin. The bricks were a patchwork of hope, with vines creeping up them, whispering among themselves, "Can we leave?" I feel like I'm stuck in a bad romantic comedy. Standing there, the tower begged for attention, with potential that flickered like a dying light bulb. You'd swear even the wind was trying to cheer it up with a gentle breeze. But then, there's the other side of the story, Tesla's competitors, crafty men like JP, Morgan, and others, who held the purse strings like toddlers clutching their toys, refusing to share. It was a power play of epic proportions, one part finance, another part stubbornness, topped off with a sprinkle of bewilderment. In fact, as Tesla was laying out his grand vision, there were murmurs of skepticism that hovered around him like a bad smell. Wireless power? They would chuckle. What's that, some sort of magic trick? Maybe you should ask that rabbit in your hat for some investment. Advice. Ultimately, like that time you tried to impress your crush with an elaborate dinner, but ended up burning the water, Tesla's grand idea went on to be a bit of a flop. The project was dreamt up in the same town where people still occasionally thought horse-drawn carriages were cutting edge. After all, the world might not have been ready for wireless energy, but at least they had a magnificent, albeit decaying, tower that served as a monument to ambition, a little bit of brilliance, and a whole lot of what-ifs. As we drift away from the misty shores of Wardenclyffe, tower, bask in the reminder that even the greatest ideas can sometimes get lost in translation. So, cuddle up, dream about the possibilities, and rest assured that all those high-flying dreams, no matter how grand or absurd, serve as fuel for the quest to light up our existence, even if they sometimes manifest as leftover pizza slices in the fridge at 2 a.m. Sweet dreams are waiting, and they await your own electrifying aspirations. Chapter 16. Tesla's Pigeon Parade in Patent Pending. Hey guys, welcome back fellow dreamers, where tonight we delve into a scene more whimsical than a cat in a bow tie attempting to dance the tango. We're setting the stage for a moment in history that involves one of the greatest minds of his time, Nikola Tesla, who, despite currents of genius flowing through him, was navigating life's rough waters with all the finesse of a duck on roller skates. Imagine a beautiful green park in New York City, where the air is tinged with the scent of roasted chestnuts and honking taxis, intertwined harmoniously with the cooing of pigeons. Tonight, we watch as an eccentric, aging Tesla clad in clothes that look like they endured a tragic laundry accident playfully flings breadcrumbs at the pigeons. Yes, the same man who aimed for worldwide wireless energy is now feeding pigeons like a whimsical park gnome. So, in this moment, let's take a moment to ask ourselves, how did a man of such breathtaking invention end up sitting on a park bench, engaging with pigeons as if they were noble scholars critiquing his latest scientific paper? Have you ever wondered what it's like to have your genius unappreciated, like that one dish you perfected but everyone still thinks you burned toast? Or consider the struggles of trying to explain your groundbreaking ideas to family members who still think Wi-Fi is a new flavor of organic yogurt. And what about the fascinating world of pigeons? Ever tried befriending a pigeon only to be judged harshly for your choice of pants? Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1905, the zenith of ambition and creativity, where dreams floated through the air like smoke from a lady's cigarette holder. Tesla, however, was quickly becoming a relic in a world that spun rapidly toward commercial electricity. The park is alive with chatter, yet the voices of those who truly appreciated his mind were waning, mourning a genius like a forgotten movie hero. Think less James Bond and more guy who talks to birds. As you settle into this vibrant yet puzzling era, picture him adorned in threadbare clothing that once might have gleamed with the sheen of fancy fabric. Perhaps he's donned a suit that, at one point in time, made him feel like a dashing gentleman, but now seems more akin to a whimsical scarecrow lost in a high society gala. The air thickens with the buzz of the metropolis, and Tesla's unkempt hair stands in defiance of gravity like a battle veteran advocating his lost cause. Now, let's talk about the park itself. Grab your scenic, virtual picnic blanket, because it's quite the scene. The grass, dotted with daisies, whispers tales of mingling lovers and children playing tag, albeit with the undercurrent of pigeons eyeing leftover crumbs like sharks on a feeding frenzy. The sun spills down, warming Tesla's shoulders, igniting a twinkle in his eye that rivals the sparkle of a disco ball at a family reunion. But wait! The pigeons approach. One brave feathered friend walks right up to Tesla, practically demanding an audience. Can you imagine? "Excuse me, Mr. Tesla," the pigeon seems to say. "I can't help but notice your benevolent crumb throwing. Any chance you could expand your offerings to include gourmet crumbs? Maybe a sprinkle of organic, gluten-free breadcrumbs for my sensitive tummy?" A genuine concern from our avian friend, who's a stickler for quality, unlike that one time you miscalculated the ratio of pizza, toppings, and ended up with a regretful concoction. And here's where the charm dives deeper. As Tesla throws crumbs, he engages in a silent conversation, blissfully unaware that he's also building a case for his biography titled "The Man Who Talked to Pigeons." They become his loyal audience, a feathered congregation ready to hear the aspirations of a man who dreamed of being the harbinger of wireless energy, yet also clearly desperate for companionship, possibly due to the human race being a tad too preoccupied with their current woes of industrialization to engage with a man shrouded in eccentricity. Imagine if the pigeons had a secret society. There, in a hidden corner of the park, they plot grand schemes to steal the breadcrumbs of rivals and hoard them with the zeal of a squirrel facing the great nut drought. Perhaps they would chant, "Coo, coo." The human delegate must be fed, for tomorrow's world of energy can only flourish with baseline crumbs. Yet, as you soak in this absurdity, there lies a poignant truth. Tesla's visions were grand, reaching for the sky like a pigeon soaring high on a summer breeze. And while he was talking to these delightful flying cousins, you couldn't help but feel a sense of tragedy lurking behind those sparkling eyes. His ideas were darting away just like those pigeons' crumbs, leaving him grasping for the acknowledgement that might never come. So as you let this delightful imagery swirl around in your mind, let it soothe you into slumber, holding tightly to the thought that sometimes, amidst the chaos of the world, all one needs is a little appreciation and maybe a few breadcrumbs shared with good feathered friends. The world waits for dreams big and small, but in the end, it's the moments spent on a park bench with a handful of crumbs that can illuminate a little bit of hope, a sprinkle of legacy, and perhaps a dash of humor. Of course, as we meander away from this curious tableau of Tesla and his pigeon pals, remember, even the grandest minds find solace in simpler things. So tuck in tight and dream of a world where ideas fly as freely as those charming avian companions, and perhaps the next great invention is just a crumb away. Chapter 17, The Birth of Sound and Spontaneous Sing-alongs. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner of mildly interesting history. Tonight, we're journeying back to the year of 1847, a time more poetic than a soap opera character discovering their long-lost twin. Picture it, a bustling Edinburgh with street musicians strumming away like they're trying to unlock the secret of happiness through a ukulele. You'll find people dressed in splendiferous tartans, merchants hawking their wares, and the smell of fresh haggis wafting through the air. Not that it'll keep you awake, but it may inspire some lively dreams. Before we dive headlong into our tale of a young lad named Alec, let me ask you, have you ever wondered why it's so hard to understand your neighbor's version of Shakespeare, and whether your bard enthusiast friend is actually speaking English? Or how about those family gatherings where someone insists on karaoke, and you find yourself contemplating a serious career change just to escape from another rendition of I Will Survive? Ever thought of a world where musical instruments spontaneously appeared, but no one knew how to play them, like cats in a symphony hall? Congratulations, you've just woken up in Edinburgh, a city vibrating with creativity and a wee bit of chaos, with all the pizzazz of a cat in a top hat attempting magic tricks. As you stroll through the cobblestone streets, you find yourself amidst lively debates about the latest fashion, a scandalous scandal, Horse-drawn carriages rumble by like the world's slowest roller coaster, leaving behind a cloud of dust that could rival a well-packed powder room. Let's talk about young Alec. Born into a family deeply enmeshed in the business of sound and communication, it's as if the universe said, "You know what this world needs? A touch of eccentric genius wrapped in sound waves." Alec's family ran a booming business that involved producing and perfecting the art of speech technology. Imagine it a Victorian-era family, poring over papers and shouting across the breakfast table. I say, can we improve how one pronounces flibbergibbet? A breakfast table debate more animated than an episode of your favorite reality show. Every morning, Alec woke up to the symphonic utterances of chatter, the sort of loud, enthusiastic exchanges that would make a parrot envious. The whole house was a cacophony of voices, arguing about the best way to articulate a passionate declaration without spontaneously inventing a new dialect. You could say his childhood bed was practically a stage, a bit like if Friends were staged in a century-old tenement filled with fifes and bagpipes. But what's that air you smell? Is it merely the scent of fresh scones wafting from the kitchen? Or is it the unmistakable aroma of innovation bubbling just under the surface? Alec would grow up much like a poorly tuned violin, jumpy and a bit awkward, but with the potential to lend a beautiful melody to the world. With each flicker of sound, he absorbed not just words, but the very essence of communication and connection. Let's be real. If you were born into a family where sound was the bread and butter, your childhood would resemble a quirky musical almost every day of the week. You think your family says, "I love you" through text messages? Imagine Alec's clan belting out declarations of affection with more flourish than a Broadway cast. You can picture it. "Alec, my lad, I do declare you are a genius. But, please, stop making those peculiar noises while eating porridge." The street musicians of Edinburgh, meanwhile, were not ideal role models, especially the ones who thought it was wise to play the xylophone while wearing a feathered hat. Yes, my friends, the fine folks in Edinburgh were a gifted lot. But let me tell you, the musical stylings ranged between utter harmony and what might sound like feral cats on a bumpy carriage ride. Speaking of Edinburgh's fine musicians, could there be a conceivable way that young Alec, inspired by the ineffable sounds around him, came to think that to communicate effectively, you would also need to belt out a Broadway number in a pub? Picture him at the local tavern, trying to deliver an elegantly phrased speech about the importance of sound waves, only to be interrupted by an overly enthused "I Will Survive" performance from Mrs. MacGregor, the widowed lady infamous for her cat-themed pub songs. Alec's life was a delightful mess, a blend of innovation and absurdity, where the boundaries of laughter and invention blurred like an artist's palette smeared with too much paint. Every misstep could potentially lead to an invention. But it seemed their family was one missed note away from discovering that they also needed a professional speech coach for their loquacious family debates. And there you have it. The stage is set amidst haggis, humor, and spontaneous sing-alongs, as our tale of Alec lays out the foundations for a future brimming with sound and invention. As the young visionary prepares to embark on a journey to power the modern world, one can only hope his penchant for the melodramatic doesn't lead to a very awkward family musical detour. So, with a quirky grin, let these visions lull you gently into a serene slumber, where the echoes of Avalon serenade you, and perhaps even the spirit of Alec whispers a tune about the delightful absurdities of life. There may yet be laughter in those dreams, waiting just around the corner. Chapter 18, Alec and his marvelous musical Misfit Machine. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner of mildly interesting history. Tonight, we're diving into a time period as full of wonder and perplexing behavior as your in-laws' holiday gatherings. The 1,870 seconds during the Second Industrial Revolution. Picture it, if you will. A world struggling to emerge from coal dust clouds and the scent of burnt toast, where every household was trying to figure out how to upgrade their butter churns into something resembling a microwave. Spoiler alert, they often ended up with a catapult instead. Before we jump into our crackpot tale of a young inventor named Alec, a boy with more ambition than a squirrel targeting an acorn factory, let me just throw a few thoughts your way. Have you ever wondered what the equivalent of a childhood treehouse was in a Victorian home full of gears and gadgets? Or how on earth you could impress your friends when your best invention was a poorly painted cardboard sword from the local box factory. Seriously, how did anything get done when people were still figuring out which end of a shovel was up? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in Edinburgh, circa 1870, complete with a sharp dose of steam power and a side of Victorian eccentricity. The streets are bustling. You can hear the rhythmic clanking of machinery as a mix of well-dressed businessmen trip over each other in a bid to ride the latest mechanical marvel, the man-driven velocipede. Picture a bicycle but with the enthusiasm of a toddler on sugar, and you get the idea. As all of this chaos unfolds, there's our hero, young Alec, lurking in a corner of his childhood home with a determined glint in his eyes. Born into an audibly boisterous family, Alec grew up, hearing debates more intense than a reality show reunion episode. Only in this household, it was all about sound waves, mechanical innovations, and the elusive art of communication that occasionally got lost under a pile of laundry. Let's talk about Alec's invention, the poor fellow decided. That mere human vocal cords weren't enough. No, he needed to build a fantastic machine, one that promised to mimic human speech, like an avant-garde karaoke machine without the awkward performances of Uncle Albert. The device itself resembled a cross between a piano, a collection of plumbing, parts, and something your cat might knock over at 2 a.m. It wheezed like an old man after a half-hearted jog, and you could practically see it sweating. Picture this. Strings connected at odd angles and dials that looked like something straight out of a mad scientist's playbook. On any given afternoon, you'd find Alec hunched over in his stuffy room, a veritable fort of tinkering bits and bobs. His mother, bless her heart, would traipse in every so often with a tray of biscuits while simultaneously wondering if she needed to consult the neighborhood psychic about who was responsible for the strange noises emanating from the attic. "Dear Alec," she'd say, peeking at the mess, "if only you'd put these efforts into finding a nice girl instead of your, well, vocal cord contraption." But Alec just smiled as he pored over his latest notes, sprawled across the table, like an ambitious toddler's crayon drawings. This was no ordinary science project. This was an earnest endeavor that might just make history, or at least create a series of mildly embarrassing moments at the next family dinner. Speaking of dinner, let's not gloss over the culinary drama of the era. Picture a Victorian kitchen filled with an odor profile that could make you rethink your life choices. Think boiled cabbage with an undercurrent of mystery. As Alec's family gathered around a table, they'd partake in delightful debates about the future of sound, while simultaneously trying to ignore the roast that had gone rogue and was pretending to be a fragrant stone. Oh dear, it seems the Capone is auditioning for a role in a horror film. You could almost hear the echoes of their conversations harken back to their overzealous attempts to convince each other that sound could be mechanically reproduced well enough to fill the church halls. But Alec, my lad, if that machine of yours doesn't deliver a perfectly enunciated hallelujah, you might as well be trying to translate cat meows into sonnets. And as the family bantered, Alec's mind was light years ahead, or perhaps several yards from reality, concocting theories about his machine's potential. Could it possibly lure his dog, Bruiser, into conversation? Or perhaps he could convince that obnoxious neighbor to finally articulate his opinions about lawn care without sounding quite so, well, screechy? But not every simulation was a success. You could say that Alec's contraption had an uncanny knack for resembling a goose during an unexpected fashion show, a series of honks and clanks, rather than melodious harmony. The first few demonstrations resulted in a cacophony that made even the most patient of pets head for the backyard faster than you could say revolutionary invention. So, here was young Alec, a boy fueled by curiosity and the mistaken belief that sound could be tamed and expressed, sort of like your uncle trying to control a karaoke machine after too many drinks. As we meander through this delightful mess of ambition, absurdity, and cooking mishaps, we slowly realize that Alec is not just inventing technology. He's unwittingly laying the groundwork for a future where the next generation will struggle to figure out how to operate perfectly functional microwaves without accidentally turning on the smoke alarm. So take a deep breath as you imagine our gallant inventor concocting his next grand scheme, putting his heart and every crumpled note into a machine that would take sound waves by storm. Indeed, this eccentric inventor may appear to stumble forward, But if nothing else, he certainly kept the family and the neighborhood forever entertained, if not a bit confused. As we bid farewell to dear Alec for now, let these colorful images cascade through your dreams, leaving you with the comical serenity of Invention Gone, Wonderfully Awry. Chapter 19, A Clash of Electric Dreams. Hey guys, welcome back to the magical realm of mildly interesting history. Tonight, we're cruising into what can only be described as a thrilling foot race between two highly questionable inventors trying to bring us the wonder of voice transmission. It's the 1,870 seconds. Folks, a time when a great many things were powered by sweat, steam, and the vague hope that maybe, just maybe, if you mixed enough gears and coils together, you'd end up with a gadget that made life a bit less absurd. Now, before we jump into our dramatic lab showdown between Alexander Graham Bell and Alicia Gray, a rivalry that's like the one between your relatives about who gets to use the remote, let me pose a few pressing questions for you. Have you ever tried to explain how your smartphone works to someone who still thinks a rotary phone is a game changer? Or experienced that moment when your Wi-Fi drops and you feel so disconnected you might as well be inside a Victorian time machine? Seriously? How did people manage to send messages without emojis or a simple lull? Congratulations! You've just woken up in 1870, an era where every corner of life feels like it's about to explode into brilliant chaos. You can smell the metallic tang of innovation in the air, punctuated by the almost overwhelming aroma of, well, everyone sweating in poorly ventilated workshops. It's a delicious cocktail of hard work, hope, and the occasional whiff of burnt electronics, because who doesn't love a little charred optimism? Picture this: a dimly lit laboratory that's a cross between a mad scientist's lair and one of your old high school chemistry classrooms. The walls are lined with bizarre contraptions, wires snaking from one machine to another like an over-enthusiastic octopus. In one corner sits the ever-determined Alexander Graham Bell, whose hair is doing its best impression of an electrical storm, wild and slightly alarming. You can almost hear him mutter to himself, "This will work. It has to work," as he adjusts his latest invention, a contraption that looks more like a relic from a carnival sideshow than a groundbreaking device. Bell's passion for sound transmission has him so fired up even the steam engine looks leisurely in comparison. "If only I could retrieve my notes from that pesky cat," he muses, casting a side glance at a furry creature lounging lazily on a pile of papers. This of course prompts a comedic debate with his short temper. You weren't ever designed to conquer the world, Fluffy. But wait, just a stone's throw away, the competition brews the crafty Elisha Gray, who's not one to be outdone. Rumor has it that he possesses a rivaling gadget that could make your ears tingle with anticipation. Having been inspired more by daydreams of grandeur than by practical application, Gray's workshop is cluttering faster than a teenager's bedroom. Wires dangle precariously, each one seemingly at war with its neighbors, vying for your attention like cats around a new box. Imagine the atmosphere. It's electric, literally charged with tension thicker than a Victorian novel's plot twist. The anxious adrenaline is palpable. The air crackles with unspoken challenges, as Gray casually scoffs at Bell's attempts. What did you think yelling into a tin can would work? He chortles, radiating all the self-assurance of someone who insists they can make a souffle when all they've ever whipped up is toast. As the clock ticks, you might find yourself wondering, who will triumph in this epic battle of auditory innovation? Will it be Bell, with his poetic dreams of clear communication, or Gray, the comedic underdog championing whatever that thing is supposed to do? With sketches doodled on parchments and ambitious dreams in the air, it was as if each inventor had envisioned their own version of a sonic miracle. One a trumpet, the other a kazoo. Could anyone predict that the future of technology hung precariously on a few cranky wires and their combined sanity? And speaking of sanity, let's not ignore the fact that Bell and Gray were likely fueled by an unhealthy amount of coffee, and perhaps a few biscuits that had begun to harden to the consistency of projectiles. There's a certain absurdity in the contrast of these genius minds pitted against each other, while their snack supply dwindled to what can only be described as battle rations. It's an unending standoff where one misstep could mean the dreaded, "It was better back in my day," comments from the skeptics sipping their afternoon tea in cozy parlors nearby. Finally, the moment arrives, their devices ready for their grand unveiling. Bell fiddles nervously with his machine, hoping it doesn't emit anything resembling an exhausted cough. Gray counters with a confident grin, armed with plans that he believes will save civilization as they know it. Everything feels charged, buzzing with the weight of expectation. And so, with bated breath, the first sounds of the modern age are about to emerge from the chaotic depths of those labs, like a duckling hatching from an egg. The question is, will it be melodious, or will it be more akin to a goose with a throat infection? With excitement simmering in the background, you almost want to remind them both to breathe. As the dust settles around this adventurous escapade, remember that invention was never a straight road. It was, in fact, a series of missteps, electrifying clanks, and the occasional accidental explosion, much like your attempts to assemble IKEA furniture. What lay in their hands wasn't just machines. It was humanity's hope to speak across distances, an idea that would eventually lead you, yes, you, to answer telemarketing calls in the very near future. So, keep giggling as our bold inventors embark on their electric journey, wherein every slight victory could easily become a historical mishap, destined to make you chuckle for generations to come. The game is just getting started. Chapter 20. The Moment of Discovery. Ah, the anticipation. You can almost taste the electric thrill in the air, a concoction of hope, despair, and perhaps just a hint of burnt toast wafting from the laboratories of our two dynamic inventors. Picture it. You find yourself limply perched on the back edge of your seat, waiting for the magic of communication to unfold in a manner reminiscent of sorting sock puppets after an unexpected washing mishap. Now, let's step into Bell's world, where chaos reigns supreme. As he hunches over his newest creation, a jumble of wires and boxes arranged with satisfying randomness, you might wonder if the only thing standing between him and genius is a healthy dose of good luck and a cat named Fluffy who insists that this is all just an elaborate game. It's a beautiful Sunday morning in 1876, with birds chirping as if they were auditioning for a symphony no one was meant to hear, while Bell stands waist-deep in paper scraps. You can almost hear the gears of his brain churning like an overworked washing machine on its last cycle, straining to make sense of everything. But wait, what's that you see? Bell holds a receiver to his ear, his heart racing faster than a kid on a sugar high. "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you," he bellows into the contraption, which, we must admit, looks suspiciously like a musical instrument that's lost its way. And just like that, the fragile strands of fate are woven together in a comic twist. Imagine his surprise as he hears a voice, the voice of his assistant, Thomas Watson, resonating through the wire with all the clarity of a poorly tuned radio. "I'm coming, boss." Here's where it gets truly surreal. For all its clunkiness, Bell's device is now figuring out how to function. It's like watching a company meeting where every employee shows up with their own very unique definition of teamwork. You cannot help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. Did it work perfectly? Oh, heavens no. The connection sounds less like a symphony and more akin to two squirrels attempting a high-stakes conversation through a particularly raucous storm. But let's back up a moment. Have you ever thought about how this simplistic request turned into the beginning of our modern communication? It's a little like being handed a slice of pizza and realizing it might be the key to ending world hunger if only the universe could find a way to properly distribute it. What Bell was doing was akin to accidentally discovering fire while attempting to fry an egg. A culinary ruckus that ignited a revolution. Now, while Bell is busy inventing the future, you can bet that Elisha Gray isn't sitting idly by. Envision this. Gray's workshop resembles the aftermath of an apocalyptic thrift store. He's also got his device ready, an electrifying instrument that seems destined to be the life of the party, assuming the party is both awkward and filled with cranky inventors. Each intricate turn of his gears sends shivers down your spine like that one sweater your grandma used to knit. Gray's invention is intended to revolutionize communication too, though. We must credibly assume it may involve shouting into a bucket at some point. As Gray sweats bravely at the thought of fame and fortune, he's barely aware of Bell's groundbreaking moment happening somewhere not too far away. Late again? He grumbles at the clock, blissfully unaware that history has already taken a turn in the favor of his rival. For the spectators, mostly comprised of bemused laboratory animals, your friendly neighborhood cats, and a couple of overly curious raccoons. This moment of discovery unfolds like a late-night infomercial. But wait, there's more! Listening to Belle and Watson engage in their first conversation through wires must have been akin to watching a mashup of a soap opera and a prank show. You can imagine the sweet irony. Belle wasn't just some determined inventor. He was the voice of a generation. Picture it, future generations asking, "What did you invent again?" While you, in the distant future, tried desperately to explain that you once overheard the first ever telephone call transpiring right next to two cats engaged in a hilarious tug-of-war over a discarded string. Perhaps the world's first conference call was just two dudes and a feline cutlet, if you will. And therein lies the greatest flaw in this glorious era of invention. With each revelation came a dose of chaos, a reminder that sometimes things don't go to plan. It's like putting together furniture from a Swedish store, an exciting promise that devolves into confusion over what's supposed to be a chair or a weapon for future catfights. But whether you were Belle or Gray, you had the thrill of discovery rooting for you, like an overenthusiastic cheerleader whose pom-poms are made of uncertainty. As we drift forward into this unpredictable landscape of voice transmission, we're left with a vital question. How often did Belle and Gray awaken in cold sweats, grappling with nightmares about their inventions unraveling into useless heap of wood and wires? And when humanity finally cracked the code of communication, wouldn't you know, at some point someone decided that the best way to relay complex emotions was through a simple emoji of a grinning cat? Hilarious, right? So, as the waves of invention crash upon the shores of time, we find ourselves contemplating not just how far we've come, but how utterly ridiculous the journey was. And at that moment, you appreciate the magic of a well-timed discovery. Whether it's Belle or Gray, neither could have known the legacy they were weaving into the future, where we now text, tweet, and stumble over our words with Wi-Fi slowing down ever so slightly, just enough to allow cats to intervene once more. So kick back, feel that moment of serene focus, and let go of the weight of invention. After all, we still have a world to explore, with laughter echoing through the corridors of history, just waiting for our next chapter. Chapter 21, A Shocking Encounter. Hey guys, welcome back to the weird and wonderful world of history. Tonight's episode is a little more electrifying than a double espresso shot at midnight. We're diving into the stormy life of none other than Benjamin Franklin in the year 1752. Imagine yourself standing in the midst of a thunderstorm, with winds howling like an angry ex and a kite flapping harder than your grandma at a holiday family dinner. Yes, it's all happening right now, and I assure you, it's more shocking than accidentally choosing the wrong email thread before hitting send. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why are we talking about kites and lightning? Is this a history lesson or a DIY project gone wrong? But trust me, Franklin's adventure is about to get wilder than a cat with catnip at a disco party. So, if you're ready to relax and possibly chuckle while you doze off, go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment. But only if you genuinely enjoy it, okay? No pressure. Alright, dim the lights, turn on a fan, and get comfy. Seriously, snuggle up like a burrito fresh from a microwave. We're about to embark on a whimsical journey through time. Have you ever wondered what kind of thoughts crossed Franklin's mind sitting amid roaring winds? Did he ever think, what a great way to ruin a perfectly good kite? Or perhaps, what if my neighbors think I'm erecting a strange lightning rod to communicate with extraterrestrials? Is he secretly hoping for a dramatic ending? Look, Mother Nature just threw shade and shocked me to the bone. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1752. Thunders rumble like stomachs in a cold cafeteria, and out of nowhere, you spot Benjamin Franklin, a man with an attitude sharper than the lightning bolts he's attempting to catch. Today, Franklin isn't just a founding father, he's also a full-time risk-taker, standing outside while everyone else is snug in their homes, pretending the world's not going bonkers. As the storm brews overhead, the air smells like wet earth and a dash of impending chaos, just waiting to treat any unsuspecting inventor to an electrifying surprise. Ah, yes, and there's Benjamin, clutching a humble kite, armed not just with whimsy, but with a metal key. This is no ordinary kite, my friends. This is a daredevil. Kite waving around like it's on an episode of America's Got Talent. And let me tell you, the stakes are higher than your cousin's expectations during family gatherings. You can almost hear the wind whispering, "Franklin, what on earth are you doing?" Meanwhile, he's likely thinking, "A little chaos never hurt anyone, right?" The storm is a cacophony of nature's own mischief. Raindrops pelt the earth like food critics questioning a chef's questionable choice of seasoning. But fear not, for Ben has a plan. Every flashed lightning bolt is like mother nature saying, "Guess what? I'd like to take a stab at your theory." Picture it. Each time the sky twinkles with electric fury, Ben is there with his kite, an amateur lightning catcher, determined to prove that electricity is a very real thing. You can almost hear him grinning, wondering if they'll get a stamp of approval from the weather gods, or perhaps a restraining order for exposing his curious mind. Lightning, my friends, is both a friend and foe. As he sends the kite soaring, the wind wrestles it upwards, transforming this experiment into something that feels like a dramatic game of don't let go. And just as the thunder rumbles with a curt, "Excuse me," a bolt of lightning zaps down, connecting with that metal key like it's found the perfect spark for a blind date. What's that? You ponder, as Franklin's hair stands taller than your hopes of ever having a good hair day. In that moment, as lightning dances down the string, the world shifts, and the concept of electricity is born. Imagine the glorious absurdity. He's potentially short-circuiting his brain while realizing that this magical jolt could light up the world, assuming he lives, to tell the tale. Suddenly, the neighbors will all be gossiping, thinking, "That Franklin fellow is either a genius or one sneeze away from becoming a modern-day ashtray." They might even argue about whether it's wise to stand out in a thunderstorm with a kite, debating if he's forging science or just really bored and a little too experimental with his hobbies. Who needs Netflix when your neighbor's conducting a shocking experiment? So, what's your takeaway from old Benjamin's brave escapade? It's a mix of determination, brilliance, and the dramatic flair of a soap opera. Picture it, history framing the perfect scene where a man swings his kite like a sword against a stormy sky. Can you imagine him later sipping coffee, explaining to the ladies at tea, "Oh, just another day in the life. Caught lightning. Nothing too shocking." As the storm begins to settle, so does our whimsical retelling of Franklin's audacious experiment. You've been escorted through the electric avenues of history where kites and keys meet chaos, proving that curiosity can indeed set fires, or at least sparks bright enough to light up a room. And while Franklin undoubtedly felt he was onto something groundbreaking, who would have thought he'd become a legendary figure just trying to catch a bit of the sky in a rather peculiar fashion? Now, as you settle back into your own modern reality, let the vivid imagery of history wash over you, like the calm breeze after that wild storm. Our journey today reminds us that within every shocking encounter lies the humor and absurdity of human adventure. Take a deep breath and get ready for the next chapter, where we journey further into the mild yet amusing chaos of history. Chapter 22, The Diplomat of Wit and Gadgets. Hey guys, welcome back to the whimsical world of history. Tonight we begin with something sharper than a well-tailored suit. The life of Benjamin Franklin, a man whose innovations, much like a poorly fitted sock, surprised many with their unusual practicality. From bifocals that changed the way you see the world, to the efficient Franklin stove that assured everyone they were cooking with style and warmth, not just the residual heat from a neighbor's overly enthusiastic bonfire. Now picture this. Franklin sauntering through a crowded 18th century street with more gadgets than a modern-day tech convention. As you prepare to settle into this amusing chapter, why not think about this? Have you ever tried reading your phone in bed and realized you needed bifocals just to distinguish between work emails and cat memes? Or, consider this. How often have you looked at your heating bill and secretly wished for a one-and-done Franklin stove to save both cash and your relationship? Spoiler alert, it's not as easy as opening a bottle of wine. Alright, dim the lights, crank that fan to just above mildly breezy, and get comfortable. Maybe snuggle up like an oversized burrito wrapped in a slightly questionable comforter. Do you ever wonder what goes through an inventor's mind while he's balancing on the fine line between brilliance and sheer absurdity? What does he think while pondering whether it's wise to stick his potentially shocking inventions in the middle of a thunderstorm? Is there a secret fraternity of inventors behind closed doors discussing their next big hits, like how about a machine that sorts laundry but takes up a whole room? Congratulations, you've just woken up in the year 1870 with all the industrial energy of a caffeinated squirrel. But here's the twist. You're not in a factory or a bustling city filled with soot and smog. You're right next to Benjamin Franklin's workshop, a slightly chaotic sanctuary of brilliant inventions. This place is buzzing with the kind of hope that reminds you of a kid opening a birthday present that could either be socks or a spaceship. Ah, the scent of molten metal and used parchment fills the air, mingled with the comforting aroma of, is that burnt toast? Yes, indeed. Franklin, with his meticulous attention to detail, prepares to demonstrate his latest gadget, the Franklin stove. Picture it. A metal contraption radiating warmth like a sunbather in July, promising to keep your home cozy without exhausting your entire supply of firewood. It's basically the green egg of the 18th century, minus the hipster barbecue cult. But let's address the elephant in the room. Why on earth would anyone sit around talking about a stove when they could be cavorting with more glamorous inventions? Perhaps it's because the Franklin stove, much like your aunt's infamous fruitcake, was a gift that just kept on giving. Not only did it save fuel, but it also provided a snug spot for communal tales, good company, and a surprisingly decent cup of coffee. You can picture Franklin with a twinkle in his eye, turning to his friends and whispering, "Sure, this stove can cook, but it also doubles as a pretty impressive conversation starter." Meanwhile, nestled among his diverse array of gadgets sits a pair of bifocals. These glasses aren't just a modern accessory. They're a thoughtful Italian pasta import into the world of sight. The legend might go something like this. You think you're blurry? Well, imagine you're trying to read a book while your grandmother asks about your potential spouse for the 100th time. Now that's a real challenge worthy of bifocal intervention. Franklin utilized these glasses to navigate life's whittled complexities reading his own publications, while simultaneously being able to spot the neighbor's squirrel lifting a spare melon off his windowsill. It's like having a dual-function camera lens, except without the filters and Instagram updates. Now here comes the pièce de résistance, a lightning rod. You can almost visualize it, a majestic structure perched on a miniature building, proudly announcing to the heavens, "Look at me, I'm here to save your house and all your vintage porcelain." Franklin's invention is the equivalent of wearing a raincoat while gardening. You wanted to protect yourself from potential disaster before it struck. No more honey, where did the roof go moments, right? Think of it as the spiritual predecessor to that friend who refuses to go outside unless there's a 0% chance of rain. But let's not forget the lightning itself. You can hear the thunder rumble like a disgruntled cat at precisely the moment it encounters a world that has dared to subdue its whims. Did Franklin ever think, what could possibly go wrong with attaching a metal rod to my roof and hoping the sky doesn't get jealous? One can only hope the neighbors were whispering behind their curtains, thinking that Franklin surely has a bit of the mad scientist about him. Yet, isn't that the beautiful irony of invention? Amidst the ludicrousness, there's clarity and maybe a hint of chaos. You know, like trying to figure out if that massive box in the corner is a vintage scooter or a mysterious artifact from the past. It's a dance of innovation, as Franklin waltzes between practicality and delight, intrigued rather than discouraged by the absurdity of it all. Ultimately, watching him was like witnessing the world's most entertaining magic show, a series of mysterious events unraveling before your very eyes, leaving you both enlightened and chuckling. Life in Franklin's workshop spirals into the marvelous invention of not just tools, but charming quirks. Every piece, from the bifocals to the lightning rod, tells the story of a man who couldn't help but tinker with the world around him. So here we sit, bathed in the glow of history's quirky mind, laughing as Benjamin Franklin continues to invent, whether making life easier, more comfortable, or downright hilarious. It remains a reminder that while the past might be rooted in seriousness, a touch of irreverence and a sprinkle of humor can lead to revolutionary discoveries. With that, let's gather our thoughts, feeling comforted by the incredibly odd but meaningful patterns of genius behavior, and prepare for our next chapter full of daring tales and laughter. Chapter 23. The Light of Science and the Shadows of Society. Hey guys, welcome back to the velvet blanket world of mildly interesting facts and absurd history. Tonight, we dive into something dimmer than the glow of your laptop at 3 a.m. The life of Marie Skłodowska-Curie, a woman whose dedication to science was so fierce, even a nightlight would have felt insecure about competing for attention. Imagine trying to study in an era when women and science were about as compatible as cats and bath time. Picture this, you're in 1,870 seconds, Paris, which smells faintly of fresh baguettes and the faint aroma of existential dread. What was it like for a determined young woman trying to elbow her way into the intimidating halls of the Sorbonne? Did she ever feel like a solitary candle fighting against the wind, surrounded by the storm of male egos? Or maybe were her lectures as invigorating as a triple espresso on a Monday morning, while everyone else was battling the grogginess of a long winter? Now, dim your lights like you're about to share a cozy secret. Turn on that fan just enough to feel like a gentle breeze from Notre Dame minus, and slide into whatever comfortable position will take you back into time. Congratulations! You've just woken up in the vibrant, bustling Paris of 1,870. Surrounding you are worn cobblestone streets promising adventure, or at least a very fashionable tripping hazard. The air crackles with excitement, a bittersweet aroma blending the sounds of street vendors hawking goods louder than your roommate's late-night snack choices. But hold your horses. Navigating this world as a woman is like trying to squeeze into skinny jeans after the holidays. It requires immense effort and some serious flexibility. Let's talk about the Sorbonne, shall we? The grand institution that practically shimmers with intellectual prestige. You can hear the intellectual alarm bells ringing like they're giving a warning about incoming student debt. It's the kind of place where minds are supposed to flourish. But if you're a woman, getting in feels a lot like trying to enter an exclusive club where the bouncer's name is societal expectations. Inside those hallowed halls, Marie's determination burned like a lone light bulb in a blackout. And boy, did it create quite the scene. While her male counterparts floundered like confused fish in a stream, Marie could be found huddled over her textbooks, studying harder than a student cramming for finals at a coffee shop packed with decaf drinkers. You can almost hear her whispering under her breath, "If I can just figure out this chemistry equation, I might be able to unlock the secrets of the universe, or at least the location of the best croissant." Every night, she would sit in her dimly lit room, focusing intently on her books and lectures, as if her very survival depended on it, because, to her, it kind of did. The soft glow of her lamp illuminated more than just pages. It cast a hopeful light upon her aspirations, much like a moth drawn to that one particularly bright flame that keeps getting extinguished by unyielding societal norms. It's like being a passionate plant, desperately seeking sunlight in a room full of self-absorbed cacti. But let's take a moment to appreciate this juxtaposition. Imagine Marie, surrounded by the sounds of laughter and the rustling of academic gowns. You could sense the invisible gasps and well-meaning chuckles when she confidently navigated her way through discussions of radioactivity, asking questions while her male peers fumbled with their notes like someone trying to make sushi without knowing what fish is. Did anyone ever question how a woman could grasp such complicated ideas without the aid of male validation? You could practically hear the eye rolls across the lecture hall. But here comes the twist. Her studious dedication wasn't just for show. Like a caffeine-fueled squirrel in a quest for acorns, Marie seized every opportunity to learn and grow. Each lecture created a new spark, fueling her passion, while the weather outside might have painted a melancholic picture of drizzle and gray skies. Still, inside her mind, the colors were practically exploding like fireworks, at least until she had to deal with the bureaucracy, which probably sounded like someone trying to play the accordion, underwater. Social barriers, however, were flimsier than a cheap tea bag. They vacillated constantly, threatening to drown her ambitions in a murky sea of prejudice. Imagine her dodging discriminatory comments as gracefully as one might navigate a busy Parisian sidewalk. The determination in her stride unwavering. With each challenge, whether it was securing funding for her studies or combating backhanded compliments thinly veiled as supportive remarks, Marie remained like a sturdy lighthouse against stormy seas, that is, if lighthouses sometimes tripped over their own beams of rational thoughts on the way to enlightenment. Let's take a pause here and admire the lengths Marie went to overcome this societal funk. Imagine her, decked out in dresses that seemed one stitch away from a fashion faux pas, and paper shuffling like an eager squirrel trying to impress an uninterested tree. Did she ever find a moment to laugh at the absurdity of it all? Perhaps in her quieter moments, she would look out the window, chuckle to herself, and think, "Ah, if only my lab equipment was as freely accepted as a man in a poorly fitting suit at a fancy dinner." And yet, as she scribbled and studied late into the night, the dim light of her lamp illuminated not just her notes, but the revolution of science. Someday, her legacy would be brighter than the streetlights of Paris themselves, if only those lights weren't still flickering in and out, battling to stay lit just as Marie battled the darkness of ignorance. So here we are, lingering in that dimly lit, slightly chaotic room, surrounded by the shadows of societal expectations and glowing aspirations. Life was an uphill struggle, but Marie wasn't one to back down on her quest for knowledge. And as her determination bobbed above the fray like a buoy in choppy waters, perhaps we can take a lesson or two from our sharp-witted heroine. No matter how dim the light may seem, persistence shines even brighter. Now, tuck in those thoughts of society and ambition, and prepare for the next chapter, where we peek into another delightful corner of history. Clashing ideas and inevitable hilarity await. Chapter 24. The glow of discovery and the dazzle of duel. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner, where history tickles your brain like a feather boa, but with fewer llama sightings. Now, tonight, we venture into a space more intense than trying to microwave popcorn while half asleep. Riveting world of science in the 1,870 seconds. Get ready for a tale so luminous, it could light up even the most dim-witted of parlors. Why? Because we're diving into a cozy, makeshift laboratory shared by none other than Pierre and Marie Curie, yes, that dynamic duo of scientific wizardry. But hold on a second. Here's a warm plate of puzzlement. What was it like to work with glowing materials that could wipe out a decade of hair growth in mere moments? Did they ever argue over who got to mix the dangerous potions? Or was their lab the historical equivalent of a Netflix binge-watching session complete with popcorn and side-eye looks when the other made too much noise? But before we dust off our lab coats and prepare to glow metaphorically, of course let's turn down the lights, crank up the fan, and slip into our most relaxed resting position. Congratulations, you've just awoken in a humble laboratory circa 1870, where the air is crammed with the sweet scent of pitchblende, an odd, mineral-laden ore that's screaming, "Hey, look at me, I'm radioactive." New sounds drift around you. The clinking of glass speakers, faint sizzling from bubbling concoctions, and the low, dulcet tones of Marie's sharp mind dissecting the universe's secrets. As you gaze around, your senses are bombarded. The room is a riot of science that plays like an avant-garde symphony. Shelves wobble under the weight of jars filled with vibrantly strange substances, and somehow, it all feels captivatingly chaotic. It's like a modern-day cluttered kitchen where someone tried to bake without a recipe. Above piles of dusty textbooks are notes plastered on every surface, resembling a bizarre love letter to curiosity and ambition. Now, let's set the mood. Imagine that you're hanging out in a lab devoid of modern conveniences. The walls aren't lined with stainless steel, but rather mismatched wood, with a ceiling haphazardly adorned with cobwebs that could definitely coach you in dodging responsibilities. And remember, there's no Instagram for them to share their work. Instead, they rely on words that could travel and inspire like a well-placed meme rumor. As the couple carefully handles the pitch blend, you can practically hear them bantering about who spilled the last vial of something fluorescent and suspiciously glowing. "Pierre, you can," envision Marie saying with a cautious glint in her eye. "Did you just create a new color of glorious disaster, or is that your attempt at cooking dinner?" You chuckle softly in the shadows. Truly, science is a lot like a relationship. One small miscalculation could lead to explosive outcomes, both in the lab and the dining table. Oh, and let's chat about something undeniably important: lab safety. Their idea of safety equipment would have given your modern safety goggles an existential crisis. Imagine shady, frayed aprons, smeared with past attempts at turning things into gold, or at least a terrible shade of gray. You see them carefully lifting metal rods with a mix of precision and unspoken bravado as the pitch blende bubbles about. It's like watching toddlers with a new set of Lego blocks, cautious excitement mixed with the constant threat of imminent disaster. Picture the futile attempt to draw a line between brilliant discussions and the occasional bickering over scientific theories. You hear Marie, her voice like an electric current zapping through the air. I believe that we might be on to the next great discovery. And Pierre, with playful skepticism, or onto a life where we glow in the dark. You chuckle as you imagine their intellectual sparring match, occasionally punctuated by taunts, the kind of while my coffee is cooling and trying to be civil banter that eventually leads to groundbreaking discoveries. And as they come to grips with the phenomena surrounding radioactivity, it's almost as if the pitch blende taunts them like a mischievous child playing hide and seek at the fair. Come on, Marie, it whispers. What's the worst that could happen? Just give me a little zap. You can't help but giggle at the litany of failed experiments providing their own soundtrack. And we get a little less decayed, please, was probably a frequent request from the couple. Yet, inside this chaotic lab brimming with flickering candlelight, ambitions twinkled brighter than the worn-out ceiling candles nearby. The essence of camaraderie whirls around them as they work together like fine-tuned instruments in a weathered symphony. The glow of discovery hanging in the air reminds you of that fleeting buzz of electricity you get just before you misplace your car keys for the 7th time that day. A fusion of inquiry, patience, and good humor dances about the room. One misstep here and there ignites a laugh or two. In this melting pot of ambition and discovery, they weren't just revolutionizing science. They were redefining what it meant to work as a partnership. What better way to fight against societal norms that tried to pigeonhole them than to become the epitome of a power couple that literally lit up the path of the modern world? So as you sink deeper into your cozy cocoon, reminisce about that radiant laboratory filled with laughter, balmy air, and loads of delightful quirkiness, where camaraderie triumphed over the cold shadows of traditional expectations. With each glowing experiment, you can feel history's pulse, fueling the dreams that would have seemed far-fetched. And just when you think it's all settled down, there's a loud pop. Maybe they discovered something unscheduled today, or perhaps 6 vials of radioactive liquid decided to dance chaotically across the floor. Honestly, who needs drama on a Tuesday morning anyway? While our dear scientists resolve to make their way through the bustling, intellectual tasks that would ultimately shape the world, here's a gentle reminder. Don't forget that behind every great scientific endeavor is a heap of joy, laughter, and occasional glowing blunders. So tuck this whimsical chapter away, for we're just getting started. Prepare yourselves as the next segment unveils another wild twist in the saga of a scientific rivalry, a tale edged with hilarity and intrigue awaits. Chapter 25. Mobile Miracles Amidst Mayhem. Hey guys! Welcome back to our corner where history serves delicious tidbits like a distracted waiter juggling entrees. Tonight's adventure is more action-packed than a duel between 2 vampire squirrels. Yes, we're plunging into the trenches, quite literally, of World War I, where innovation met desperation like awkward dance partners at a family wedding. So, if you've ever tried to fix a flat tire in the rain while your car's radio plays Singing in the Rain, or found yourself in an existential crisis over coffee brewing, you'll feel right at home in this tale of battlefield brilliance, led by none other than the fierce Marie Curie and her intrepid daughter, Irene. Prepare for kerfuffles, chaos, and perhaps a splash of radiance or two, because who doesn't love a little glow with their giggles? And before we jump into the thick of it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. But only if you genuinely enjoy this, you know? Much like how you would only ask your Aunt Mildred to tell her famous casserole recipe if you actually liked it. Now, take a deep breath, dim the lights, turn on that fan, and get comfy, because we're about to time travel faster than a caffeinated cheetah. Have you ever pondered what it would be like to conduct life-saving science on a muddy battlefield, right next to the equivalent of a lot of very grumpy men in muddy uniforms? What was it like wrestling with curiosity, while dodging artillery shells, wondering if your new science lab had just been used as a target practice area? What if you discovered that your mobile X-ray unit was more like a fun-covered cart than a high-tech contraption? And bonus question, how many times did Iran try to convince her mom that a well-placed snack might distract from the explosions nearby? Congratulations! You've just woken up on the sun-drenched, yet utterly chaotic battlefront of World War I. The air is thick with a peculiar mix, freshly turned earth, smoke, and just hinting at the enthusiastic sense of cooking rations is the kind of aromatic experience that screams, what in the world is cooking? As you glance and see a makeshift kitchen with a chef, bless their heart, who seems one sneeze away from starting a food fight. Now, let's picture the cramped quarters, where Marie Curie, armed with more knowledge than a seasoned librarian, sets up a rather mobile little X-ray unit, dubbed Little Curie. The cart is resembling something you'd find in a quirky flea market, but with a hefty dose of science magic. Wires are bundled together like a sad spaghetti mess. And let's be real, it's more like a hodgepodge of creativity held together by sheer will and maybe a little luck. As you step closer, the little unit emits a faint glow like that one friend who can pull off a glow-in-the-dark costume at every Halloween party without fail. You can almost hear Marie muttering, "It's not glowing, it's just enthusiastic about its potential." Imagine her, desperately trying to adjust the gear while occasionally glancing around to ensure nobody's mistaking her for a walking science experiment rather than a full-fledged scientist. It's like leading a nature walk in the chaos of a crowded mall during the holiday rush. "Mom, are you sure we need to use this thing right now?" Eden asks, her eyes darting nervously as she attempts to aim the unit amidst booms and blasts. Fair question, really. I mean, you wouldn't grab the blender during a thunderstorm, would you? Yes, absolutely. Marie responds as calm as if she were merely suggesting a lovely afternoon tea. The only radiance we want in this war is from our inventions, not the explosions outside. Picture this. Bullets whizzing past like a scene from some over-enthusiastic action film. While, on the other hand, our pioneering duo manages to bring the wonders of science to those who need it most. Dressed in lab coats that wouldn't look out of place at a Halloween party, they embody a level of bravery that makes even the most seasoned warriors a cross. The line raise an eyebrow in awe. Each time they gather around the little Curie to test its limits, you can practically hear Marie mentally recalibrating everything. It's akin to that feeling of resetting your Wi-Fi router, but the stakes are wildly higher, like the difference between a slow, buffering video and an explosion at a fireworks factory. And here comes a delightful absurdity. Imagine them treating this mobile X-ray unit like a prized possession, cradling it like a newborn or a particularly awkward pet. Careful, Eden. It's fragile like your uncle's ego after. Family game night, Marie warns, watching intently as they navigate the rickety terrain of war-torn landscapes. The juxtaposition of their scientific endeavor against the backdrop of such intense conflict creates an almost surreal spectacle. It's the meeting of intellectual prowess and raw emotion. Think Shakespearean tragedy meets comedic relief at the world's most unusual circus. As they roll the little Curie towards the front line, you can almost hear the sounds of wonder and humanity colliding a symphony of hope. There's no way anyone can stitch up a wound without properly knowing what's being dealt with. Marie emphasizes in her resolute voice, looking to Eden as if passing on an unbreakable baton. "Just keep smiling, Mom. Your glow might just distract them enough for us to finish the job," Eden quips, with a wink that could melt even the slong, iciest of hearts. And so, amid artillery showers, Marie Curie and her daughter forge ahead, armed with knowledge and a healthy dose of gallows humor, cutting through the dreariness of war like a slice of hot butter on a fresh corn cob. They become the embodiment of intent and courage, standing tall in a realm where laughter mingles with uncertainty, illuminating the shadows of despair with the sparkling promise of human resilience. So, as you gently drift into slumber, remember that even in the mayhem of a battlefield, humanity's brilliance and laughter shine brightly, lighting up the darkest corners and warming the hearts of those who dare to tread the thin line between genius and madness. Get ready for the next section, where curiosity skims the surface of another chapter filled with delightful antics and historical whimsy. And now, as the glow of invention fades into quiet memory, as the sparks dim, the wires cool, and the echoes of two brilliant, stubborn minds settle into the stillness of night, let your breath slow, and let the weight of their world drift gently away. Tonight, we walked beside people who shaped the modern age long before electricity became ordinary, long before switches, screens, humming appliances, and glowing cities felt normal. We watched a curious boy named Alva turn the pages of dusty books, a spark forming silently in his mind. We felt the persistence of a young immigrant who saw patterns in currents and dreamed in voltages. We stood between two titans whose rivalry lit entire continents, not just with brilliance, but with ambition, frustration, failure, and triumph. We saw the long nights, the burnt filaments, the ruined prototypes, the exhaustion, the laughter that slipped through cracks in the struggle, and the quiet, stubborn belief that the world could be brighter, that light could be captured, shaped, and given freely to humankind. For them, progress wasn't easy. It wasn't clean. It wasn't neat. It was messy, exhausting, competitive, and sometimes ridiculous. Because even the greatest innovators suffered bad hair days, exploding labs, and the occasional dramatic meltdown. And yet, through rivalry and failure, through cold workshops and sleepless nights, they kept going. Their resilience lit the world, literally. So as you lie now in a warm room, illuminated by what they helped create, take a moment to feel grateful for the quiet hum of modern comfort, for soft light instead of darkness, for warmth instead of cold, for safety instead of struggle. Let the past fade like a cooling filament. Let your thoughts settle like dust on an old workbench. Let sleep rise slowly, softly, peacefully. You're safe. You've done enough. The world, its inventions, its rivalries, its noise can wait for morning. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and drift gently into dreams. Good night.